Konoha had proved once again why it was considered the strongest of the elemental nations. Konoha was pitted against 2 other villages, one them being one of the top 5, and yet Konoha came victorious. However, in war, no victory is without sacrifice, and as such Konoha lost a few shinobis whose names would forever be engraved in the memorial stone. Naruto was slowly regaining consciousness and opened his eyes only to be blinded and brought his hand to cover them. He slowly adjusted to the light and looked up to see a white ceiling. He took the scent of the place and it smelled like disinfectant. Great, I'm in the hospital, Naruto mumbled to himself and tried to rise but felt a weight in his chest. He looked down and saw a mop of dark blue hair that belonged to Hinata. She was curled against him with her head on his chest drooling. It was a funny sight to see. He chuckled and softly shook Hinata, trying to awake her. She began to stir and opened those white eyes that Naruto loved so much. She rubbed them to shake off her sleepiness and took her surroundings to find Naruto's deep blue eyes staring at her. Comfortable? Naruto asked with an amused smile. Very much, thank you, Hinata replied and tried to bury her face closer to his chest. How long have you been here? Naruto asked. I didn't want to sleep alone at the house, so I infiltrated the hospital after hours so I could cuddle with you, Hinata said, slightly blushing, and Naruto chuckled. How is everyone doing? Naruto asked, sitting up and stretching his arms. Everyone we know is fine, but the village did suffer its casualties. Hinata explained, looking down. I understand, Naruto said. He gently grabbed her chin, making her lock eyes with her. Cheer up, Naruto said, and slightly kissed her on lips. The quick kiss became a hot make-out session, with Naruto leaning against the wall and Hinata straddling him, holding him by his neck. Oh yeah, this is golden. Ryu tries to cheer up his lover by kissing her deeply, his hands feeling her soft skin. Moments later his hands start roaming down, eliciting a small moan of bliss from Hiromi, Jiraiya said out loud as he was scribbling furiously on his notepad. This kid will be even better than his father, Jiraiya continued on writing as a small trick of blood fell from his nose. What are you doing, Jiraiya-sama? Jiraiya looked up to see Hinata with a very sweet smile on her face. Jiraiya paled at that particular smile, and he could swear he saw a visage of the Shinigami behind her. Have mercy, Jiraiya said, pleading. Not today, Jiraiya-sama, not today, Hinata said before her Byakugan flared. Secret technique, 1000 years of pain, Hinata said, and empowering her fingers with chakra she slammed them right in Jiraiya's butt, sending him flying into Naruto's room and crashing into the wall. Naruto was wondering what this commotion was until he saw his pervert of a godfather flying into his room. Jiraiya crashed into the wall and fell to the ground crying anime tears with his ass smoking. Hinata approached the pervert, who recoiled in fear as she approached. She quickly found out his notebook and threw it at the air and burned it to ashes with a small katonjutsu. This particular katonjutsu was taught to her by Kurane, who burned every ika she found. Nuo, Jiraiya yelled, crying as he watched his precious work turn to ashes. Naruto just chuckled at the antics of his godfather, who was now getting back to his feet while nursing his precious butt. How are you doing, Gaki? Jiraiya asked. I'm good. I just had chakra exhaustion, I'm good as new, Naruto replied. Good, Jiraiya replied as he saw the ashes of his notebook fly off the window and sunk his head. Naruto looked around, and when he didn't see it he decided to ask Jiraiya. Arrow Senin, Naruto said, gaining a thick mark from Jiraiya. Have you seen my fan? Naruto asked. I have it right here, Jiraiya said, and took out a scroll from his back and unsealed his fan. Jiraiya picked it up and Naruto raised an eyebrow. Jiraiya saw the surprised face on Naruto and asked what was wrong. I'm just surprised you can lift the weapon so easily. You do realize that that thing eats a lot of chakra, Naruto said, and Jiraiya sensed his chakra to noticed almost 20% missing. This thing just ate a fifth of my chakra just by picking it up. How can you use it? Jiraiya asked, confused, as he placed the fan near his bed. That fan was created by the Rakudo Sennin, and only a descendant from him can use his weapons without the massive chakra drain, Naruto explained, and Jiraiya nodded. There are only 2 people left on this world that can use these weapons, me and my grandmother, Naruto said. Speaking of which, Sarutobi-sensei told me to take you both to his office when you woke up, Jiraiya said, and Naruto nodded. Jiraiya called a nurse over so she could do a quick checkup on Naruto and allowing him to leave. He's completely back to normal, you can go, the nurse said, and Naruto jumped off the bed. He quickly got dressed, picked his fan and placed it on his back, and they all left towards the Hokage Tower. Naruto, Jiraiya called, and Naruto focused in attention on him. Can't you Hirishin us to the tower? Jiraiya asked, and Naruto's sweat dropped. His father's S-rank space-time technique that he used to decimate a battalion was reduced to transportation. I can but I won't. I want to stretch my legs, Naruto said, and Jiraiya pouted. They were calmly walking through the streets without a care in the world. Naruto got so caught up in his thoughts he didn't notice the road ahead of him and crashed into a civilian, knocking him to the ground and making Naruto recoil a bit. When the civilian noticed who he crashed into, quickly rose up and bowed to Naruto before he could even apologize. My apologies, Uchiha-sama, the civilian said, and everyone raised an eyebrow. Uchiha-sama? Naruto asked, and the civilian flinched. Hi, the civilian replied, slightly fearful. Figures, Naruto thought. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, for now anyway, and you don't have to bow to me. I hold no grudge against any of you, Naruto said, and the civilian sighed in relief. He didn't want to piss off the grandson of Uchiha Madara himself, even more after what heard Naruto did during the invasion. Thank you, Naruto-san, the civilian said and left. That was interesting, Jiraiya said, and Hinata nodded. Indeed, maybe they will stop shouting demon everywhere I go. That's always a plus, Naruto said, and looked at the other civilians walking in the streets, but the looks Naruto used to receive weren't there anymore. In the beginning they held hatred, after he showed them the Kyuubi they held fear, but now they seem to hold respect and admiration. Hashtag Hokage Tower hashtag They all arrived at the Hokage Tower and went through the doors to see the old Hokage giggling like a madman with blood trickling from his nose while he had a few Kage Bushins working on his paperwork. The Hokage giggled once more and Naruto's sweat dropped, only to see Hinata disappear in a blur and snatching the Hokage's book and destroying it with the same katonjutsu. Are all men perverts? Hinata asked out loud and got a sigh from the Hokage. How are you feeling, Naruto-kun? The Hokage asked. Naruto outdid himself against the Kages. It isn't every day we see a 14-year-old boy hold his own against Kage-level shinobis. I'm good as new, Naruto replied. Now let's get into business, the Hokage said as his clones dispelled and he took his seat behind his desk. Oh, by the Jiji, Naruto said, getting the Hokage's attention. Did you take the scroll I had with me because I had Gaara and his team sealed in there? Naruto said. Yes, don't worry, they are all in lockdown pending negotiations with the Sand, the Hokage explained. And what is the Sand saying? Jiraiya asked. It's up to the council now, since the Kaze Kage died in the invasion and they took a very heavy blow. They came at us with a full battalion of almost 1,000 shinobis and they can't risk war against us, so they will comply with our demands, the Hokage explained. What did you ask? Naruto asked. Financial compensation for the damage dealt to the village, and we are keeping Gaara as another Jinhuriki and their team should they choose to stay as well, the Hokage said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. I know you may not like it, but the Baijos dictate the power shifts in the villages. Until now we only had the Kyuubi. Now we have two if Gaara decides to turn friendly to our side, the Hokage said. Naruto brought his hand to his chin in thought and replied, he might. He holds no love for his village as he was treated like me. Good, the Hokage replied. Now they would stand like Kumo and Iwa, both having two Baijos. The Leaf never prided themselves on making weapons of Jinhurikis and proved it many times. They won 3 world wars by having extremely skilled shinobi and not relying on Jinhurikis to do their work. But before that we should fix Gaara's seal, Naruto said, and Jiraiya rose an eyebrow in confusion. After I placed my demonic suppression seal on Gaara I noticed some irregularities. The seal that holds Shukaku was designed for inmate objects. It's nothing more than an advanced storage seal, that is why Gaara is so unstable. It is probably also affecting Shukaku, Naruto explained, and Jiraiya nodded. We will take care of that later, but now I have other concerns, the Hokage explained before taking out a file and handing it to Naruto to read. What's this? Naruto asked as he picked the file and started reading it. The report on how good Uchiha Sasuke did during the invasion based on shinobi's saw in Kakashi himself, the Hokage explained. Invasion report. Name, Uchiha Sasuke. Team affiliation, Team 7 under Heitake Kakashi. Rank, Genin. Team assigned, Narushikamaru and Harano Sakura. Description, Sasuke displayed high level of skill and responsibility by taking charge of a Genin team and provided crucial assistance in the civilians' evacuation, as well defeating multiple Chunin level shinobis from both Sand and Sound. Recommendation, promotion to Chunin. Okay, now what? Naruto asked, slightly confused as to why the Hokage would show him this. I want yours and Hinata's opinion on this, the Hokage explained. Why us? Naruto asked. You are friends with him and know him better than anyone, the Hokage said. Friends is a very strong word, Naruto said, sighing before pulling his thoughts together. I have no doubt that Sasuke is strong enough for Chunin, it's just his attitude that endangers this. If he does get promoted, his ego will skyrocket and he might conflict if someone of the same rank is chosen as leader. Naruto reasoned. In the other hand, not promoting him will just enrage him even more, as he will think that the village is holding him back, and with Orochimaru's offering of power he might be a flight risk. Naruto finished his explanation. What about you, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked. I agree with you, he's too focused on revenge and both choices have drawbacks. However, promoting him and placing him with a strong leader will solve these problems, Hinata replied, and the Hokage nodded in comprehension and would take this late on with the council. I will take it into consideration. Now on to the next manner, and this relates to you, Naruto, the Hokage said, and Naruto focused on him. I'm too old for this job. I should have stayed retired, but when your father died I was forced to take back the hat, the Hokage said, sighing. This invasion was proof of that. I'm no longer strong enough to lead this village, and as such I chose a successor, the Hokage explained. Are you giving the hat to the pervert? Naruto asked offhandedly and got a smack on the head from Jiraiya. I'm not a pervert, I'm a super pervert, Jiraiya said. Cough. The Hokage forced to chuff the silence the bickering duo. I would have asked him, but he would have refused, the Hokage said, and Jiraiya nodded as it was true. His spy network was of too much importance to the village, and besides he wasn't the type of man to be strapped behind a desk 8 hours a day. Now this brings the main reason I asked Jiraiya to bring you in, the Hokage said, but before he continued Naruto interrupted him. You are making me Hokage? Naruto asked with disbelieving look. Not yet, I'm afraid, the Hokage replied, chuckling. The reason I called you here is because Jiraiya wants you to accompany him into searching for my replacement Senjutsu, the Hokage finished with an amused smirk on his old face. Really? Naruto beamed, thinking of going to search for the last piece of family he has, even if she doesn't know about him. Yes, although she might be a bit reluctant into coming back to the village, the Hokage said, sighing. She hasn't been able to cope with her losses and she throws herself into drinking and gambling. Don't worry, I'll bring her back to the village. That's a promise, and I never go back in my word, Naruto said. Now this brings us to final topic of this meeting, the Hokage said, and Naruto sighed. They had already been here for quite a while and it seemed it wasn't going to end any time soon. After this I'm calling a council meeting to give the promotions. You will be promoted to Chunin, which gives you the right to have a council seat as the head of the Senju, Uzumaki, and Namikaze clans, the Hokage said, and Naruto nodded. So have you decided on your name and if you will take the seat right now, the Hokage asked. Naruto once again was lost in thoughts. The Uzumaki name has been with him since his birth, but it's too far away and apparently he's the last of the Uzumaki along with Tsunade. He would like to honor the Namikaze name of his father, but that never belonged to any clan and he wouldn't want to forget the Senju clan. The Uchiha name was out of the question, and as such the choice was only between Senju and Namikaze. It was a tough choice in the end. Naruto would be leaving one name to die, and as such he decided that he should not let the name of the founders of Konoha to be forgotten in history. I'll take the Senju name. From now on I'm Senju Naruto, Naruto said. The Hokage smiled. It was good choice as it were any other, but Sarutobi liked that he chose the founders clan name. Are you taking the seat now? The Hokage asked. Naruto mused in thought. I don't know, there is going to be lot of noise because of this, Naruto said. Yes, but they can't deny you your heritage, the Hokage explained. I'll take it. Now let's go make some noise, Naruto said, smirking at the thought of all those yelling civilians. The Hokage just sweat dropped. The Hokage flared his chakra and an Umbu dropped from the ceiling and knelt in front of him waiting orders. Summon the council and call Uchiha Sasuke and Nara Shikamaru, the Hokage said. Hi, the Umbu replied and disappeared in smoke. Let's go face the music, Senju Naruto, the Hokage said, chuckling, and they all left the office and went towards the council room. Hashtag council room hashtag. It took about half an hour before all the clan heads could come. They were all seated in the traditional place. The Hokage, Jiraiya, Naruto, and Hinata walked through the double doors and saw that the council was already assembled. The Hokage sat down and noticed the room. To his left were the clan heads. There was an empty seat closest to him, followed by Inyazuka Tsum, head of Inyazuka clan, Hyuga Hayashi, head of the Hyuga clan, Abarame Shivi, head of the Abarame clan, Shikaku, head of the Nara clan, Yamanaka Inoichi, head of the Yamanaka clan, and finally Akimichi Choza, head of the Akimichi clan. To his right there were his advisors, Shimura Danzo, Mito Kato Homura, and Yudatan Koharu. Next to them was the civilian side of the council. It consisted of the most important civilians in the village that ran the most shops and provided food, clothes and other materials and services for shinobi use. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, grandson of the legendary Uchiha Madara. Sasuke remembered those words as he watched Naruto walk into the room. His long hair and the fan on his back made Sasuke seethe his teeth as he was permanently reminded his utterly defeat. The council is in session, the Hokage said before looking at the genins in front of him. We are here today to award promotions to these extraordinary genin for their skill and work during the invasion, the Hokage started. Shikamaru stepped forward, the Hokage called out and Shikamaru stepped forward as requested. For great planning during your match and work during the invasion we promote you to Chunin. Congratulations and keep up the good work, the Hokage said and threw him a flak jacket. Troublesome, Shikamaru said before putting his jacket on and stepping back. Hyuga Hinata, the Hokage called out and Hinata stepped forward. For great skill in taijutsu and ninjutsu and for remaining calm at the face of stronger opponents we promote you to Chunin. Congratulations, the Hokage said with a smile. Thank you Hokage-sama, Hinata replied. Uchiha Sasuke, the Hokage called out and he stepped forward with his traditional cocky smirk. You are a special case. After many deliberations and taking into account the work you did during the invasion you are promoted to Chunin. At this Sasuke's smirk got even wider. But any sign of insubordination or failure in conduct and you are stripped of the rank. Understood, the Hokage said in a serious voice leaking a bit of ki. Of course Hokage-sama, Sasuke replied still with his smile. And finally, the Hokage said shifting his attention towards Naruto. For great skill in defeating not only Shukaku but for providing great assistance during the invasion in defeating the Kazekage and providing assistance to me against Orochimaru I award the rank of elite Chunin to Senju Naruto, the Hokage said and an immense silence followed. Everyone was still wondering if they heard their Hokage correctly. What? Sasuke yelled out and pretty much resumed the thoughts of everyone in the room. How can he be a Senju? Sasuke said spitting the Senju name. He has the Sharingan, Naruto stated. Everything I said is true. Naruto is the last remaining Senju in the village, the Hokage explained, and surprisingly enough no one yelled or said anything and they just stared at the Hokage waiting for an explanation. You all know that Senju Tsunade had a daughter, right? The Hokage asked and the clan heads nodded. Yes, but she died, Hayashi stated in a calm tone. That Naruto was becoming more surprising by the moment. Her death was faked by me to protect her from the CRA, the Hokage said, and they all gasped. To think the Hokage would go to such lengths to protect someone from CRA. Her death was faked and Uzumaki Kushina was born, the Hokage said, and Shukaku eyes widened in realization. Troublesome, he said without thinking, making the Hokage focus on him. Trust Inara to figure the rest, the Hokage thought. Would you like to do the honors? The Hokage asked. Troublesome, Shukaku said before pulling his thoughts together. You all remembered that red-haired loudmouth, right? Shukaku asked and everyone nodded. After all, Konoha's Red Death wasn't easily forgotten. We all know who she was always around, right? Shukaku asked almost rhetorically. Yes, that hussy was always around, Minato-kun, the pink banshee said. The moment she said hussy, Naruto's chakra spiked to the level that everyone gulped in a dry throat due to his presence alone. However, he didn't release any ki and as such the civilian were all oblivious to that. If Naruto is a member of the Senju clan, the only possible outcome would be if he's Kushina's son, and looking at him, blonde hair, blue eyes, I'm confident assuming that Minato was the father, Shukaku said, and everyone eyes widened. Who's Minato? Sasuke asked, who was oblivious. You wanted to know who my father was, right? Naruto asked to Sasuke, who nodded. My father was Namikaze Minato, Yondaime Hokage and Uchiha Madara's son, Naruto said, and everyone jaw hit the ground. Who would in their sanity believe that Madara's son would become Hokage? It's ironic, the son of the greatest traitor became our biggest hero, Naruto stated out loud. And the funny part of all this is that Madara hated the Senju and his son ended up marrying one, Shukaku said, and everyone chuckled. So that means that you are the great-grandson of Senju Hashirama the Shodaime Hokage, great-grandnephew of Senju Tobirama the Nidaime Hokage, grandson of Uchiha Madara and son of Namikaze Minato the Yondaime Hokage. Some said Whistlin', that was one powerful lineage right there. And you people treated him like garbage, some growled at the civilian side who held their heads down in shame. But that's not all, the Hokage said, gathering their attention to him. I'm resigning and as such I've chosen my successor, the Hokage said, and many were shocked by this blunt statement. After this meeting, Jiraiya along with Naruto will be retrieving Senju Tsunade, Naruto's grandmother, for the position of Godaime Hokage, the Hokage said, and people were happy with his choice. Tsunade was considered a princess in the village and was summoned with the power of a cage, so she was a fine choice. A very strong lineage indeed, Hayashi commented, but everyone could hear the tone which was said. A fine choice, perhaps my teachings weren't a total loss, Hayashi thought discreetly, looking at Hinata. Even if they were low in numbers, the Senju clan was still one of the most powerful and renowned clan in the entire world. Enough, Sasuke yelled, making everyone jump from the sudden sound spike. You are an affront to the Uchiha clan. You flaunt that fan and have the Sharingan, and yet you choose to honor the Senju name, Sasuke said. You are a disgrace and unworthy of such weapon, Sasuke spat. You want my fan now? Naruto asked. Yes, I demand you hand that fan, as it belongs to an elite Uchiha like me, Sasuke said, and Naruto laughed and Sasuke got a tick mark on his face. You don't even know how irony-packed that statement is, Naruto said, and Sasuke got confused and was getting angrier by the moment. I will explain everything, so just listen, Naruto stated. Sasuke, can you tell me what are the levels of the Sharingan? Naruto asked, prodding around a bit, wondering if he knew about the Mangekyo. The Hokage sent Naruto a look that clearly said, do you think it's wise? But Naruto nodded. It would become knowledge at any point in time, so he just wanted to get this over with, so he didn't have anything more to worry about. 3 levels, from 1 to 3 tomos in each eye, Sasuke simply said, but Naruto sent a knowing look. Fine, there is a 4th level called Mangekyo Sharingan, but can only be obtained by killing your best friend, Sasuke blurted out without wanting, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. Naruto knew of that because Kurama told him about it, but how could Sasuke now? How do you know how to achieve it? Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes. Itaka told me to come after him when I had the same eyes as him, Sasuke replied, and Naruto seemed to accept the answer. Now let me tell you all something that has long been forgotten, Naruto said, and everyone focused on him. We all know the legend of Rakudo Sennin, right? Naruto asked, and every nodded. They were all shinobis, and as such they all knew the tales of their father. Rakudo Sennin was a shinobi of unparalleled power. He was even considered to be a god. During his life he had 2 sons. His older son inherited the sage's eyes and found the Uchiha clan, and the younger brother inherited the sage's body and founded T-Senju clan, Naruto said, and everyone raised an eyebrow at the statement. How do you all this, Naruto-san? Shibi asked. Let's just say that the Furball is an endless pit of information, Naruto explained, and his stomach growled at the Furball nickname. Moving on. When his life was ending, he had to choose who would carry on his work, and as such he chose the younger brother, the Senju leader. However, this didn't sit well with the Uchiha brother, who thought that being the firstborn deserved to be T1 to lead the world to peace through strength. Naruto said, and everyone was focused on his explanation. The silence was disturbing. As such, the older brother challenged the younger one to a battle for the title but lost. Angry with this loss, he decided to exterminate the Senju before it even began, but he would need more power to do that. He decided to perform a blood ritual to transform normal person into Uchihas capable of using the Sharingan, Naruto explained, and everyone's widened. The benefits of such ritual were unparalleled and could easily bring Konoha to heights never before reached. The Uchihas created by the blood ritual were half-blood, while the ones that came from the older brother's line were called elite or pure blood. Everyone understand? Naruto asked, and everyone nodded. The pure bloodline was my grandfather's line, going through Minato into me. I assume that my grandfather is dead from a letter I have from him, so I'm the last of the pure blood Uchihas, making Sasuke a half-blood, Naruto explained, and Sasuke seethed. He didn't want to be a half-blood created by some ritual. And what's the difference between the pure blood and half-blood? Shukaku asked curiously. The key difference lies in the activation of the 4th and final stage of the Sharingan. In pure blood Uchihas, the final level is achieved like any others through training in life and death situations. Like mine, Naruto said, and closed his eyes. He opened and showed them the normal Sharingan, but then the Sharingan started to slowly spin until it became his Mangekyo. This is my Mangekyo I achieved when that civilian sent 2 Jonins to kill me. I've got to thank you for that, Naruto said, smirking with his EMS glowing in all its glory. Everyone was drawn to his eyes, his blood-red eyes that seemed to give off power beyond anything ever imagined. The true power of the Sharingan, the power of Uchiha Madara. He just became much more dangerous, Hayashi thought as he watched his Mangekyo glow. But there is one more key difference, Naruto said, and broke everyone trance just from looking at his eyes. If a half-blood Uchiha awakens his Mangekyo, the more they use it, the more the eyes get sealed until there is nothing more than darkness, Naruto said, and everyone's eyes widened. So that's the price for power for the half-blood. That's why I said you didn't know how irony-packed that statement was. You called yourself an elite Uchiha but in the end you are nothing more than a copy, Naruto explained as he deactivated his eyes and waited for the explosion. That came out a little harsher than I wanted, Naruto thought in retrospect. How dare you mock me? Sasuke said to him, spiting every word. Is there any proof you can give? Sasuke asked. Just one, my fan. Naruto said and removed it from his back. This fan was created by Rakuta Sennin and as such only a true descendant can wield it without massive chakra consumption. Naruto explained. Hinata-chan, can you check Sasuke chakra levels? Naruto asked. If he gave the fan to Sasuke and he didn't have enough chakra he would hit the ground dead like a sack of potatoes. He's around Jonin level, Hinata said and Naruto nodded. You want to prove that you are pure blood? Naruto asked Sasuke, who nodded. Then pick my fan without fainting, Naruto said and offered the fan to Sasuke. The moment Sasuke just touched the fan he collapsed to the ground on his knees taking deep breaths. Is that enough proof? Naruto asked as he replaced the fan on his back. There are only two people in the whole world that can use the fan, me and my grandmother Senjutsunade, Naruto explained and everyone was still processing everything they heard until now. It doesn't mean that you can't be strong, Sasuke, it only means that the next level of eyes isn't worth the cost, Naruto explained. He knew that this explanation would piss Sasuke even more but he had to find out sometime. I'll make my own choices, Senju, Sasuke said and left the council room without even asking for permission and slammed the door shut. It was inevitable, the Hokage said. I have a question, Danzo said and Naruto shifted his attention towards him. Do you know how to do this blood ritual? Danzo innocently asked. No, but even if I did I wouldn't reveal it, Naruto said and Danzo scoffed. I hold no hate for them but the half-blood Uchihas shouldn't have been created in the first place, Naruto explained. That's a bit harsh coming from you, Inoichi said. True, but you knew the Uchihas and their hunger for power. If they all knew how to achieve the next level, what do you think they would do? Naruto rhetorically asked. I think Itachi wiping them out was a blessing in disguise, Naruto said. You have no idea how right you are, the Hokage thought to himself as did his personal counselors. Well, this was a very strange day of revelations, Homura said. Yes, is there anything else you want to discuss? The Hokage asked and the pink banshee raised her hand. Yes, Hokage-sama. Since Naruto-sama is now the sole heir to a clan, the CRA applies to him, the pink banshee stated and Naruto's eye twitched. I have a question. You didn't know about me until now, so why didn't Sasuke go into CRA? Naruto asked, trying to outmaneuver them as he already knew this was coming. We didn't want to pressure him as he might run away, the pink banshee explained. Well then apply the same principle to me. If you force me into CRA I will leave the village and the Senju, Uzumaki, Namikaze and pure blood Uchiha line ends with me, Naruto stated out loud and clear and Jiraiya scoffed. He didn't know why his godson wouldn't want a harem, but he was just like Minato, an idealist. Hinata is the only one for me, Naruto said and Hinata turned bright red. Kids, with Naruto-kun, Hinata thought before fainting. Naruto quickly rushed to her and caught just before she hit the deck. She hasn't fainted in years, Naruto said chuckling. So are we clear about the CRA? Naruto asked with a serious voice. But you can't refuse its law, the pink banshee tried to explain but she couldn't but feel a bit scared of him. I took down a Baijuyu alone. I suppose it's civilians like you that are going to force me? Naruto rhetorically asked. He didn't want to flaunt his power but in this case he was forced. The pink banshee flinched at his tone and said nothing more. She was trying to set him up with Sakura but it appears it's too late. The shinobi side never really appreciated the CRA, especially the females. Just the thought of being turned into a baby factory made them want to puke. Anything else? Naruto asked but everyone remained silent. The meeting is adjourned, the Hokage said and everyone started leaving except Jiraiya, Naruto, and the fainted Hinata who was regaining conscious. That was a very interesting meeting, the Hokage explained. Yes, and they didn't want to kill me this time, Naruto said chuckling. Although Sasuke didn't seem happy, Naruto said. Can't really blame him, Jiraiya said. Are you ready to head out? Jiraiya asked. Two things. Can Hinata go with us? And I would like to visit Gaara before, Naruto said and both Jiraiya and the Hokage nodded. Here the Hokage gave him a paper to allow him to visit Gaara. Meet with Jiraiya and Hinata at the North Gate in 2 hours then, the Hokage said and everyone left the room. #IT department #Naruto made this way towards the interrogation and torture division. The IT division was located near the Hokage Tower, so it was only a couple of minutes on foot. He entered the building and suddenly a kunao came out of nowhere and grazed his cheek, drawing a bit of blood. Naruto turned around, no see Anko trying to lick his blood, but apparently the wound was already closed. What kind of greeting is this? Naruto asked, shaking his head. You are no fun, Anko pouted. So what are you doing where, Mr. Uchiha? Anko asked and Naruto sighed. My name is Senju Naruto and I'm here to see Gaara, Naruto explained and Anko's eyes widened to the Senju name. Here, Naruto said and delivered her the Hokage's permission to visit the inmates. After you, Senju-sama, Anko said, licking her lips and bowing deeply. Crazy snake lady, Naruto muttered in thought. Naruto made his way down the stairs and came into a heavy metallic door with an Umbu stationed outside. Naruto quickly showed him his permission and was allowed inside where the holding cells were. This section didn't have many cells when compared to Konoha's prison because the IT department was only temporary. Naruto arrived to the last cell and looked inside. In there were Baki, Temari and Kankuro, all wearing chakra seals and restricting clothes. Gaara, however, was chained to the middle of the room with a kanji circle around him. Come to gloat? Temari asked. Her voice broken and weak. Not my style, Naruto replied. She didn't understand how a 14-year-old defeated not only her sensei who was a jonin but also her brother. In fact, I came to talk to Gaara and explain a few things, Naruto said, and Gaara looked up, locking eyes with Naruto. How is the seal? Naruto asked. How are you so strong? Gaara asked instead of replying Naruto's original question. Enter Naruto Ost 1, sadness and sorrow, the pain of being alone, is really terrible, right? Naruto asked and Gaara's eyes widened. I don't know why, but I understand your feelings so well that it hurts me, Naruto said, and everyone was silent. But I have precious people now, and I would never allow anyone to hurt them, Naruto said. Why do that for strangers? Gaara asked with shaky voice. Because they took away my solitude and loneliness, Naruto said. They saved me from my hell and because of that they are precious to me and I would do anything for them, Naruto explained. Love, is that why is strong? Gaara mused in thought. Hinata-chan, Hokage-jiji, Iruka-sensei, Kakashi-sensei and more. Naruto said, smiling. I don't have anyone like that, you were lucky, Gaara said sadly. You just have to look around, and not very far, Naruto said, pointing towards his brothers and sensei. When I placed the barrier, they jumped in even knowing that you might lose control and kill them as well, Naruto explained. Really? Gaara shakily asked. Of course, Gaara, we are your brothers. We would anything for you, Kankuro said, patting him in the back. Thank you, Gaara said, smiling for the first time in a long time. End Naruto Ost 1, Sadness and Sorrow. Before we begin again, I need to tell you that. Naruto bit his lips but continued, I was the one that killed your father, Naruto said. Killing someone else's father is hardly a good thing when starting a friendship. Good, Gaara said, and Naruto faltered for a moment before regaining his senses. Good? Naruto asked in disbelief. Yes, he turned me into a weapon and then tried to kill me on several occasions by sending assassins. Besides, he was never a father to any one of us, Gaara explained, and Naruto sighed in relief. Now I have good news and bad news, Naruto said, and the sand team focused on them. The demands we made towards the sand were financial reimbursement and the Ichibai, Naruto said, and everyone's eyes widened. Which means that you, Gaara, won't be allowed to leave the village, Naruto said, and Gaara remained silent. However, you might be able to join our ranks and be a Jinhiriki like me, Naruto explained, and Gaara nodded. He never really enjoyed his time in the sand, so maybe Konoha would be a nice change of pace. What about us? Temari asked. She didn't know what they were planning from them, and it could be execution. As an offer of good faith towards the sand, we are offering you a choice. You can remain here in the leaf as shinobis, or you can return to your home village, Naruto explained, and they started thinking. We stay with our little brother, Temari and Kankuro, and Naruto chuckled and turned to Baki, who remained silent through this whole meeting. I can't remain here, I have people there, Baki shakily said, and Naruto nodded. I understand, Naruto said and got up. I'm going now to get the 5th Hokage since the old man is retiring. When I come back I will take you all to ramen, my treat, Naruto said. Ramen? Gaara asked. They apparently didn't have those types of food in there. Ramen is food for the gods, you will love it. See you in a few days, Naruto said, and left the IT department heading towards the gate where Jiraiya and Hinata were waiting. Naruto, you are a strange person, Gaara thought. Hashtag Sand Village Council Room hashtag It has been a couple of days since the failed invasion and the scarce survivors of the invading force arrived at Suna to inform them of a terrible mistake and ever worse failure. News that the Kaze Kage was killed in combat forced the council to be summoned and the demands from the Leaf answered. Of the 1,000 shinobis they sent, only a couple dozens survived to tell the tale. It was a massacre to the Sand shinobi to lose so much and gain nothing in return. The Sand never stood a chance. Even with Oto and Gaara's power combined they were utterly defeated. The Suna Council was composed of 12 members, now only 10 since the Kaze Kage was dead and Baki the Jonin commander was missing in action or dead. What a mess, Dai said. Dai was one of the youngest members of the council. He was a Chunin who got recently promoted and was the head of intelligence in the Sand. What do we do now? Aki asked. Aki was a middle-aged man. He was a retired Chunin from the shinobi life and chose a simple civilian life with his wife and kids. I say we fight, Kimi said. Kimi was one of the few civilians in the council. She was the leader of the civilian council that ran all of the stores in the village. We can't fight. We lost a fifth of our shinobis to that invasion. That attack was a leap of faith and wild card. We are severely weakened right now and we probably wouldn't be able to hold an attack should the Leaf go to war with us, Aki explained. According to the reports, their Jinhiriki was able to defeat Gaara and kill the Kaze Kage along with 200 of our own with a single jutsu. Yura and everyone's eyes widened. What could they do against such overwhelming force? We can't do anything else but to surrender to their terms, Yura said sighing. Their village took a very hard blow and it would take years to recover. We can't surrender to them, Kimi said. We broke the peace treaty, we invaded and lost. We have no choice but to surrender the money and the Ichibai to them, Yura said. They want our Baijuya, that's unacceptable, Aki said. Would you prefer war? Yura rhetorically asked. We can win, we will have the home field advantage, Dai explained. And their Jinhiriki uses the same jutsu and obliterates the village. Konoha isn't considered the strongest of the five for no apparent reason. They won all the 3 world wars and this invasion was proof their strength hasn't diminished, Yura explained. One told you many times the alliances make you dependent and weak. I never thought of seeing this village fall to such degree, Cho said. Cho was one of the elders of the Sand and the one that performed the sealing on Gaara. How much money are they asking? Kimi asked. For property damage and lives lost they ask for 50 billion, Yura said. That will almost destroy our economy, we must renegotiate with them, Kimi said. These terms are non-negotiable. We should never have placed our faith on Orochimaru of all people, Yura said, shaking his head. So what's left of this village? Without help we will probably no longer be considered a shinobi village among the Great Five, Dai said. We must make new alliances, Aki explained and a few nodded. A new alliance would cement their growth so they can stand back up and prevent any attacks. Yes, send word for Tsuchikage, Yura said. Hashtag Otagaku or hashtag Orochimaru was cursing every single fiber of Naruto's being. Orochimaru was considering if he should keep Naruto alive for his purposes or kill him for destroying the chakra network on his arm. The moment his chakra network was destroyed he lost the ability to mold chakra in that arm, preventing him from doing hand seals and as such preventing him from doing any type of jutsus that required any hand seals. Kabuto had studied his arm and tried to heal it, but you can't heal something that doesn't exist. With his level of knowledge Kabuto didn't stood a chance at doing anything to heal his master. Of course Orochimaru had a solution, which was to swap bodies, but he wanted to wait for a very special body that he felt was getting closer and closer. He could feel all of Sasuke's hate and hunger for vengeance and soon enough he would belong to Orochimaru. I'm sorry Orochimaru-sama, but this type of wound is beyond me, Kabuto replied sadly, and Orochimaru cursed the blonde. Everything was good until he showed up and the barrier he placed didn't even slow him down, but above else he has the eyes. Orochimaru always wanted the main Jikyo Sharingan. It can't be helped, there is only one person that might be able to heal me, Orochimaru said, sweating. Losing the chakra network in his arm placed him in constant pain as his cells weren't properly fed. And who might that be? Kabuto asked as he pushed the glasses in his face up. My former teammate Senjutsunade, Orochimaru replied with a glint in his eyes. He knew exactly what it would take to convince her. Contact our spies, we are leaving now, Orochimaru ordered. Hashtag Konoha's Dango stand. Hashtag a few days had passed since Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya all left in search for Naruto's grandmother, Senjutsunade, so she could return to the village to become the Sarutobi's successor as Godame Hokage. The constructions around the village were progressing very well as they didn't receive much damage. The most important buildings were protected by Naruto's barrier seals, allowing the hospital and other buildings to remain working non-stop. In the middle of Konoha, more precisely in the dango stand that Anko spends most of her time in, were two cloaked persons inside drinking a bit of tea and eating dango since it was a dango stand. Both of them had long, high-collared black cloaks with red clouds in them, on top of their heads, straw hats with a small bell hanging by a small red wire. These two unknown members actually belonged to an organization called Akatsuki that were after the Baijus like the one in Naruto, but no one knew that. "Have you heard the news?" one civilian asked, and both Akatsuki members focused on the conversation. Believe it or not, listening to civilians talk is a very good way to scout for information. "About what?" one other civilian replied. "That brat, Uzumaki Naruto, is now Senju Naruto. Apparently is the heir of the Senju clan and great-grandson of the first Hokage," the civilian said. "Did you hear that Itaka-san?" the Akatsuki member asked his partner, now identified as Itaka. Uchiha Itaka, the prodigy of the Uchiha clan and the one that butchered all of them except his little brother a few years ago. "Yes, Kisame. This is new revelations. We must inform our leader," Itaka replied in his monotone voice, and Kisame nodded. "You don't say, but I thought he was an Uchiha since he is the Sharingan," the civilian replied, and Itaka's eyes widened, revealing a pair of blood-red eyes with 3 tomos in it. "I think you missed one a couple years ago," Kisame said, chuckling. It was fun to see at least some emotion coming off from Itaka since he was always stoic and didn't say much. "Interesting. How can Naruto-kun have the Sharingan?" Itaka mused in thought. "I know for certainty that I killed all of my clan minus my foolish little brother. Neither Kushina-senpai nor Minato had the Sharingan. Is it the Kyuubi?" Itaka thought as ran through all the various scenarios on his head to explain. "What are you thinking so hard about?" Kisame asked in an amused tone. "I don't understand, how could Naruto be an Uchiha? It doesn't add up," Itaka replied. "Well, if you listened to what they were saying you would know. Apparently the brat is the grandson of Uchiha Madara," Kisame said, and Itaka froze. He never said anything about having a grandson. If he had a grandson he would most likely use him to achieve his goals. Kushina-senpai didn't give off chakra similar to an Uchiha, which only leads me to conclude that it was Minato, Itaka thought. Minato never showed his Sharingan and yet he was a force to be reckoned with. Deception, the true way of the shinobi, Itaka thought, chuckling to himself. He was considered a genius among genius, a prodigy that appears once every 100 years, very similar to Minato, but it appears that Minato won the pool. "This is very interesting indeed," Itaka said as they continued to listen to their conversation. A few minutes later another civilian said something that caught their attention. "It's a good that the Sandaime is retiring. He did so much for our village, he deserves to rest," the civilian said. "Yes, and the chosen to the Godame Hokage was Senjutsunade," the civilian said. "Looks like the Hokage title falls into the Senju once again," the civilian replied. "I know," the other replied, chuckling. "Jiraiya-sama left with Naruto-sama so they could find her and bring her back," the civilian said. "Looks like we lucked out. The Kyuubi just left town," Kisame said sadly. He was hoping to feed a good portion of chakra to his same Hata. "Yes, let's leave before we are discovered," Itaka replied, and both of them stood up and left the stand. Both members were walking through the village, making their way out of the village when they came across with 2 familiar faces, to Itaka at least. "You aren't from the village, right?" Asuma asked, weary of the unidentified males in front of them. "Why are you here?" Asuma asked. "Long time no see, Asuma-san, Kurane-san," Itaka said in his monotone voice. "If you know who we are then you must be a shinobi from this village," Asuma said. Itaka simply raised his hat slightly to allow them to see his blood-red eyes. The moment they saw his eyes they both tensed. "Uchiha Itaka?" Asuma asked, and Itaka dropped his hat and let his hair flow with the wind, locking eyes with the 2 jonins in front of them. "You know these people, Itaka-san?" Kisame asked and also dropped his hat. "Then I'll present myself. Hoshigaki Kisame, a pleasure to meet you," Kisame said. "You dare show your face after what you have done?" Asuma asked as he kept his guard up. Even with Kurane he didn't know if he could take him on, and his companion wouldn't help at all. "I'm going to end you both," Asuma said. "Itaka-san, it looks like you are hated in this village," Kisame said, chuckling. "I know who you are," Kurane said, eyeing Kisame. "Hoshigaki Kisame, former member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist," Kurane informed. "You are in a lot of trouble for coming here, Itaka," Asuma said. "Don't get involved in my work," I have no intention of killing you, Itaka said. You aren't the type of person to return here without a goal. What is it that you want from the village? Asuma asked. You are annoying, Kisame said and took his sword out and hit the ground making chunks fly and a bit of dust to rise. Should I kill them? Kisame asked Itaka. It appears we aren't leaving without a fight, Itaka said. The moment Itaka said that, Kisame picked his sword and tried to hit Asuma, who jumped back to avoid. Asuma took out his trench knives and blocked the next sword swing. Kurane used the cover that Asuma gave her and went through hand seals, disappearing into thin air. Genjutsu. Itaka thought as he used his Sharingan to analyze the battle. Asuma was starting to sweat as he was being pushed by the sword. Kisame was a lot stronger than he let on, and that with only a single hand. My same Hata doesn't cut, it shreds, Kisame said and pulled his sword back, shredding through Asuma's skin and drawing blood, making him wince in pain. Meanwhile Kurane had her genjutsu ready. You are late, Kurane, Asuma said, nursing his arm. The moment Asuma said that, the ground around Kisame started to melt and he was trapped and unable to move. Behind Itaka, a tree suddenly sprouted from the ground and snared him in place. Kurane emerged from the tree with a kunai at hand, getting ready to kill him. This is the end for you, Kurane said, and moments later she realized that she was the one pinned to the tree and was watching Itaka ran towards her with a blade at hand. Kurane bit her lip and used the pain to break the illusion. The moment she broke it, she ducked under a horizontal slash from Itaka's blade. Itaka saw Kurane duck and gave her a kick that she blocked, but she was sent towards a nearby river nonetheless. Kurane, Asuma shouted, concerned with her. You don't have time to look away, Kisame said. Meanwhile on top of the river. That was very good, Kurane-san, Itaka said as he quickly appeared next to her at the river. But, Itaka said but was interrupted. But this is the end for you, another voice said from behind Itaka. He turned around to come face to face with Kakashi himself. Asuma was dodging swing after swing until he saw an opening and tried a slash with his knives that gave Kisame a small cut through his cheek. As a reply, Kisame started going through hand seals and said, Sutan, Suiari Udan no Jutsu, Water Dragon, Kisame said, and from the river a water dragon erupted and went towards Asuma. Out of nowhere came another dragon of equal strength that clashed with the one from Kisame, destroying each other. The same jutsu? Kisame asked, surprised. Why are you here? Asuma asked. I thought you might need a hand, Kakashi replied. Suddenly Itaka's hand flew out of his jacket with shurikens ready to throw. Kakashi jumped back and said, Sutan, Sujin Hiki, water wall. A water wall rose up around Kakashi, blocking 4 water drills. Apparently the shurikens were a mere distraction from Itaka. He's fast. I barely saw the hand seals, Kakashi thought as he analyzed the powerful opponent in front of him. Very good, you are skilled with that eye of yours, Itaka. Right before a shadow clone from Itaka come behind Kakashi and stabbed him with a kunai, Kakashi bursted into water, revealing it to a simple water clone. Water clone? Kisame asked, amazed. He knows so much jutsus from my village, Kisame thought. Itaka was looking for Kakashi when something caught his attention. He looked down only to see Kakashi giving Kurane a kunai. But, the moment Kurane was about to attack one of the attack-eyes in the river, Kakashi tackled her just before the clone exploded. Kakashi! Kurane! Asuma yelled as he also jumped into the river. The water was coming down from the explosion and showed a lightly scorched Kakashi and an unharmed Kurane and Asuma. Be careful with him. He became an Umbu captain at 13 years old. Kakashi explained. I didn't expect him to be so strong, Asuma said, surprised. No, he has yet to show his true strength, Kakashi explained. You are really skilled with your Sharingan even though you aren't an Uchiha, Itaka said. He's right, I tire easily, Kakashi thought. Sharingan, the true power of the Sharingan. I'm about to show you why the Uchiha clan was feared and unparalleled in power, Itaka said just before his eyes opened very slowly. This is bad. If his powers are what Naruto told me about, then we are in big trouble, Kakashi thought. Guys, close your eyes, no matter what happens don't open them, Kakashi yelled, stressing every word. Only a Sharingan user can fight him, Kakashi explained. It's true that a Sharingan user can resist it, but you can't counter this technique with it, Itaka explained just before he locked eyes with Kakashi. Tsukuyomi #Tsukuyomi world #. The moment Itaka pronounced that single word, Kakashi was drawn into another world. The sky was red and the clouds and sun were black. Kakashi was pinned to a cross, trying his best to break the illusion. Don't overexert yourself. This technique is unbreakable. In here I'm God and control everything. 3 days in here are but 3 seconds in the real world, Itachi explained as he had a sword on his hand and was clear what he was going to do to Kakashi. Suddenly Itachi stabbed Kakashi in the gut and he yelled in pain. Itachi suddenly multiplied and all of them had swords and started stabbing Kakashi as well. 71 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds remaining, Itachi said as Kakashi was healed and he started stabbing again. Hashtag real world, 3 seconds later hashtag what happened? Asuma asked as he felt Kakashi wince in pain but didn't know what happened. His mind held on. Kisame asked, surprised to see Kakashi still standing but taking hard breaths. It seemed a miracle that he yet managed to stand, but Itachi-san, it's dangerous to use those eyes, Kisame said. By the looks of it, Naruto was right, Kakashi thought. Are you after Sasuke? Kakashi asked, his voice strained by the genjutsu he just suffered. No, Itachi replied. We are looking for the Yondame's legacy, Itachi relied in his traditional monotone voice. You are from the Akatsuki, aren't you? Kakashi asked, surprising everyone in there. Kisame, we are taking Kakashi with us, Itachi suddenly said, and Kisame dashed towards him only to intercept by a fierce kick from Konoha's green beast Mato guy. Who are you? Kisame asked as he regained his footing. Konoha's green beast Mato guy replied with his teeth sparkling as he took his Goken stance. Look at you, perhaps you meant to say fool, Kisame taunted, but Itachi cut him off saying, don't underestimate him. Suddenly Kakashi fell to the water and started sinking only to be caught by Guy. Open your eyes, Guy said to Asuma and Kurane. But Kakashi. Kurane said but was cut off. Just don't look at his eyes, focus on his legs and arms and fight from there, Guy explained as they both opened their eyes, but it seemed that they were always drawn to lock eyes with Itachi. Easier said than done, Asuma said. Kisame, we are leaving, we didn't come here to start a war, Itachi said, and they both disappeared in a blur. They are gone, I'm taking Kakashi to the hospital, Guy said and disappeared as well. Hashtag with Sasuke hashtag Sasuke was currently in the Uchiha compound in one of the many training grounds taking out his frustrations on some unlucky wooden dummy. He was frustrated from everything he learned during the council meeting. That Naruto just seemed to have everything. Sharingan Sasuke remembered as he drove a fist through the wooden dummy destroying the right arm. Uchiha Madara, Sasuke remembered and gave an open palm strike and severed the dummy's head. Senju Sasuke remembered and gave it a spin kick and destroyed both legs leaving only the torso left. Pure blood Sasuke seethed and charged a Chidori and completely obliterated the dummy leaving nothing but bits and chunks on the ground. The once mighty wooden dummy was no more. Sasuke took a couple of deep breaths trying his best to calm himself. He went towards his house to take a bath to clean the sweat from the training session, until he remembered something. When you awake your Sharingan, go to the main house and look beneath the 7th tatami mat from the far right. That is where our clan used to meet, in there you will find your answers, Sasuke remembered. One of the last things Itachi ever said to him just after he massacred the clan leaving only him behind. Sasuke quickly made his way towards the main hall. Since his clan demise he only used his house and the other buildings were just gathering dust. He quickly arrived at the main house and made his way towards the meeting hall. He counted 7 tatamis from the far right. He removed the 7th and beneath it was a small staircase that seemed to go in deep beneath the main building. He quickly made his down but it was pitch black. He scanned his surroundings and used a small fire jutsu to light the torches. He suddenly came face to face with a big stone wall and, by the looks of it, it seemed very sturdy and heavy, but Sasuke noticed the Sharingan design in the middle of it and quickly activated his. What seemed to be an empty wall now had writing in it. He quickly performed the hand seals instructed in the wall and stone moved to the side allowing entrance to the chambers. Apparently only someone with the Sharingan was allowed entrance to such place. Sasuke entered the new room and as he expected was empty and dark, but the Sharingan enabled him to see better at night, so he found the torches and lit them. The moment the torches flared to life, Sasuke saw a big room with a tablet in the middle. Behind the tablet a wall with the Uchiha fan in it. Sasuke used his Sharingan and looked very carefully at the tablet. It seemed that he could only read bits and pieces, but from what he could read it clearly stated that there was another level above the Sharingan and it was the main Jikyo Sharingan. Maybe the more advanced the eyes, the more I can read, Sasuke pondered in thought as he was using the Sharingan to read what was written in the tablet. Everything the tablet said was exactly like Itachi had said about his eyes. Sasuke knew he needed to achieve the next level of eyes so he could go up against his brother and defeat him. Interesting enough, the tablet said nothing about the half-blood and pure-blood Uchihas, so Sasuke wondered just how old this tablet was. I will need every bit of power I can get to defeat him. Hashtag with Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya. Hashtag a few days had passed since they left Konoha. As they were going towards the town, Jiraiya had received info from his spy network. According to his spies, Tsunade was last seen in a small town in the land of fire called Tanzaku. One interesting fact is, don't for a moment think that Jiraiya won't be a pervert around you, even when you sleep. This particular fact was a surprise to Naruto and Hinata, since both of them got a room for them and Jiraiya was left with one to him. Jiraiya, being the pervert that he is, thought that Naruto might be getting some action with his girlfriend and as such used his infiltration jutsu and infiltrated Naruto's room with his notepad ready to write. Not a good idea to try and spy on someone who has the Sharingan and Byakugan that can spot anyone using chakra. As such, he was once again in the receiving end of Hinata's Juken techniques and Naruto defense seals, zapping the poor pervert. They were approaching the town Jiraiya heard about. They have been walking a couple of hours now and they were starting to see the town on the horizon. This town was famous for having a huge castle in the middle. So Naruto, are you working on some new technique? Jiraiya asked, wanting any juicy details. If he had the same mind as his father's, then any technique would be worth learning. Actually, yes. I'm working on recreating the lightning armor since I saw the basics during the battle against Orochimaru. I can already channel lightning chakra through my synapses to further increase my reaction time, but the outer shell is a bit tricky, Naruto explained, and Jiraiya was stunned. You do realize that is an S-rank jutsu, right? Jiraiya asked. I know. That's why I'm trying to recreate it. I think I'm rather good with lightning jutsus. I'll get it down eventually, Naruto said, and Jiraiya nodded. His father was the same. When he got some jutsu idea on his head, it would stay there until solved. How about in the meantime you improve the Rasengan? Jiraiya said, and Naruto got confused look. Improve? My father's notes didn't say anything about a better Rasengan, Naruto asked, and Jiraiya nodded. Your father created the Rasengan intending to add his elemental affinity to it, but it might be a jump to do that yet. So why don't you try to make a bigger Rasengan by pumping more chakra into it? Jiraiya said, and Naruto pondered. The Rasengan was itself an A-rank jutsu. If he created a bigger one, it would go towards S-rank, and adding elemental affinity, it would most likely be a one-shot kill. Anudama Rasengan, big Rasengan? Naruto asked for confirmation, and Jiraiya nodded. So I just pump more chakra into it? Naruto asked, and Jiraiya nodded again. How much more? Naruto asked. How about you try with twice the chakra and go from there? Jiraiya said, and Naruto nodded. As they were walking, Naruto decided to try and do a big Rasengan. They were walking and Naruto was focusing chakra to his hand. He started spinning the first round of chakra and immediately created a layer to compress it and easily reached the normal Rasengan. He started pouring more chakra into it and the ball started glowing even more. Sensing no strain in containing it, he continued to add chakra and was easily reaching the double the normal Rasengan. He was about to tell Jiraiya he managed twice the amount when the Rasengan suddenly destabilized and exploded in his hand. The result of the explosion created a shockwave that sent everyone tumbling to the ground as they didn't expect the backslash from the jutsu. His Rasengan seemed just fine a few moments ago. Damn it, brat, Jiraiya said. How about you train it away from us? Hinata asked, and she got up and dusted off her clothes. My bad, Naruto said, chuckling and rubbing the back of his head. We are almost at town. How about you keep the training for later? Jiraiya said. Away from us, Jiraiya stressed, and Naruto's sweat dropped. It was a little shockwave after all. Fine, Naruto said, pouting as he couldn't train this new technique right away. He might be strong, but he's still a brat, Jiraiya said, shaking his head. But he isn't strong enough to take on cage-level shinobi alone, though he has techniques to run away, Jiraiya thought as was thinking on what should he teach Naruto. They arrived at the gates and entered the city. Hinata and Naruto were marveled by all the activity going on and all the people having fun in the various stands available. They didn't leave the village much and only started after they became genin. Let's go to a hotel and sleep the night. We will start searching tomorrow, Jiraiya stated, and they both nodded. They were calmly walking through the town, completely unaware of two presences after them. They were keeping their distance and suppressing their chakra levels so they wouldn't be detected. Looks like the information was accurate. He did leave the village with Jiraiya, but I don't know the girl, Kisame said as he watched the three of them check into a hotel. The girl's name is Hyuga Hinata and she was the Hyuga's heiress but was expelled from the clan, Itaka calmly explained. She doesn't seem like much, Kisame said as he watched her. She seemed too fragile like a doll. We are shinobi, don't underestimate her. She was promoted to Chunin along Naruto-kun. We don't have much info on her, so tread carefully even if she seems weak, Itaki explained. He was always the prudent one while Kisame tended to jump in, goo blazing. Fine, but even we can't take on Jiraiya, Kisame said. Indeed. Let's find some girls, Itaka said, and Kisame's jaw dropped. You want to get laid? Kisame asked, and Itaka got a tick mark. I heard about Jiraiya's obsession for women. It's our best choice to distract him long enough for us to get to Naruto-kun, Itaki explained, and Kisame nodded. What about the girl? Kisame asked. She is irrelevant, although it appears that Naruto is very close to her. Notice how he walks close to her yet he's slightly ahead of her as if shielding her, and he's ready to jump into action at any time. Itaki analyzed. He seems close to her, so we might use it for our advantage, Itaka said, and Kisame nodded. Let's go, Kisame said, and they both disappeared in a blur. Hashtag with Tsunade hashtag 2 women could be seen walking through the empty streets of the town. The reason they were empty was simply because they were walking through a castle that made that town famous. The first woman had a slender frame and a rather large bust. She had brown eyes and long pale golden hair that was strapped in 2 pigtails. On her forehead she had a purple diamond tattoo. She was wearing a grass-green haori with the kanji for gamble written in black on the back, inside a red circle. Underneath she wears a gray, kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, held closed by a broad, dark bluish-gray obi that matches her pants. Her blouse is closed quite low, revealing her sizable cleavage. She wears open-toed sandals with high heels and are polish on both her fingernails and toenails. She also wears a soft pink lipstick. She was also wearing a necklace with a green stone, similar to an emerald. The other person was a fair-skinned woman of average height and slender build with black eyes and hair. Her hair is straight and shoulder length with bangs that cover her ears and frames her face. She was wearing a long bluish-black kimono with WHI trimmings, held closed by a white obi, and open-toed sandals with low heels. They were Senjutsunade, Naruto's grandmother, and a world-renowned medic and her apprentice Kato Shizun. Suddenly the earth started shaking and the castle they were walking to visit exploded and came crashing down. As the dust started to clear, it showed that the castle was destroyed by a rather large snake with 2 people on top of his head. I found you, Orochimaru said from the top of the snake's head. Orochimaru, Tsunade said with her eyes widened. She hadn't seen her teammates in a very long time. It was approaching on 2 decades by now. Long no time no see, Orochimaru, Tsunade said. She knew that Orochimaru was missing Nin and as such was treating him wearily, especially since she knew exactly what he could do. You are difficult to find, Orochimaru replied. What do you want with me? Tsunade asked, trying to get this over with. You didn't come to talk about the past, did you? Tsunade rhetorically asked. Actually, I wanted to ask a small favor, Orochimaru said. He doesn't look good. He looks like he's in constant pain, Tsunade thought as she observed Orochimaru taking particular attention to his arm, who was limp at his side with bandages around. Tsunade-sama, you can already tell what we want, Kabuto said. Find another one. I've stopped performing medicine, Tsunade flatly replied. You can see very well the extent of the injury. There isn't another one, Kabuto explained. That arm, that isn't a simple injury, Tsunade said, fishing for information. A sealing technique. His arm isn't giving off chakra, as if it didn't even have chakra network, Tsunade analyzed. What did you do to get that? Tsunade asked. Just something that happened when I attacked the leaf, Orochimaru said, and Tsunade's eyes widened. You did what? Tsunade asked, surprised. Looks like Sensei did a number on you, Tsunade said, chuckling. It wasn't Sensei, it was your pesky of a grandson, Orochimaru said, and both Tsunade and Shizun froze. What grandson? Tsunade said. Don't tell me you didn't know, Orochimaru said, chuckling. Tsunade dashed forward and grabbed him by his clothes. Answer me, Tsunade yelled, giving off so much killer intent that Kabuto was sweating slightly. Exactly what I said. Your grandson did this to me, Orochimaru said. But, he's dead, Tsunade said, and even Orochimaru got confused. He seemed very alive when he destroyed my chakra network, Orochimaru said, annoyed. He still hadn't made his mind on to either kill the brat or kidnap him for his experiments. Maybe he could clone him and once the body was properly matured use as his own. But, I got a letter from Sensei saying that no one survived the Kyuubi's attack, Tsunade said, shocked that her grandson was still alive. She knew that her daughter Kushina was pregnant at the time. Looks like someone has been playing games with you, Orochimaru said chuckling. You see, even Sensei has betrayed you, Orochimaru said. Tsunade was lost in thoughts at the revelation. Her own sensei said that no one survived the Kyuubi's attack, and 14 years later she hears that her grandson is alive and kicking. Enough of this, Tsunade said and punched a nearby wall, completely destroying it. She would have her answers when she got to the leaf and no one would stop her. She was about to dash towards Orochimaru when he started talking again. If you heal me, I'll bring back your daughter, brother, and lover, Orochimaru said smirking, and everyone froze and Tsunade started shaking. Don't you want to be with them, Tsunade? Orochimaru asked, pressuring her even more, and she started sweating and remembering everything she had lost. If I heal that arm, what will you do? Tsunade asked, making eye contact. I dislike lies, so I'll destroy the leaf, Orochimaru replied. Destroy the leaf? Shizun rhetorically asked. Tsunade-sama, you can't accept this. I would like nothing more than to have them back, but you can't heal his arm, Shizun stressed out. Shut up, Shizun, Tsunade yelled, and Orochimaru smirked. Tsunade sunk her head deep in thought. You don't have to answer now, Kabuto explained, and she raised her head. You will have a week, and this kinjutsu requires human sacrifices, so it's up to you to gather 3 sacrifices, Kabuto explained. Tsunade-sama, let's kill them both here. With the state of his arm we won't get another chance, Shizun said, but once she looked at Tsunade she fell silent. Tsunade was very deep in thought, almost unaware of her surroundings. Don't think just because I can't do hand seals I can't put up a fight, Orochimaru said and bit his finger, drawing blood. The moment Tsunade saw blood she started shivering and clutching to her necklace. I know of your fear for blood, Orochimaru said chuckling. We will be going now and we will meet in 1 week, Orochimaru said, and both of them disappeared in a blur. Hashtag with Kisame and Itaki hashtag Itaki and Kisame dropped the chase after Naruto, without losing his location, and started walking calmly through the town bursting with activities. They were searching for an appropriate distraction for the Toad Sage. The Toad Sage was a well-renowned and self-claimed super pervert, and of course his biggest weakness was women. They were scanning the crowd until their eyes met with a woman that would get the job done very well. They calmly walked towards her and stopped in front of her. She had a slender body, C-cup breast, well-toned and shaped legs, beautiful green eye and dark blue hair. She was wearing a dark blue dress that ended just above her knees. All in all she was someone any man would drool for, and Jiraiya would be no exception. Can I help you? The woman asked with a melodic voice as she watched the cloaked individuals stop in front of her. One of the cloaked men lifted his hat, and the last thing she saw was a pair of deep blood-red eyes as if they were staring into her soul. Hashtag with Jiraiya, Hinata, and Naruto hashtag the team was currently walking through the village in the hopes of finding a good hotel so they could rest for the night, and the following day they would search for Tsunade. After a few minutes of walking they all noticed a hotel and decided to settle in. As they were walking towards the entrance of the hotel, Jiraiya spotted a woman. Now, this wouldn't be a surprise to anyone since all of them knew Jiraiya very well, but the fact that said woman smiled and waved at Jiraiya actually surprised Naruto and Hinata. Jiraiya had hearts on his eyes as he saw the beauty that was waiting for him. Jiraiya didn't even need to think twice as he said, check in here and work on chakra control, Jiraiya said, and ran as if his life depended on him towards the woman who was waiting for him with a small smile. Naruto just sweat dropped when he told him to work on chakra control. At least it wasn't that bad since Naruto's chakra control still could be better. Let's settle in, Naruto said and started walking into the hotel when he noticed that Hinata wasn't following him. Something wrong? Naruto asked as he watched Hinata look at the roof of one building. No, Naruto-kun, let's go in, Hinata said, and they both stepped in and walked towards the attendant's desk where there was an elderly man waiting. We would like 1 room with 2 beds to spend the night, Naruto said, and the man nodded. That will be 200 ryo, the man said, and Naruto handed him the money and got the keys to his room. Both walked up the stairs and headed towards their room. Their room was located on the 2nd floor. They walked through a long hall before stopping at the right door. They opened it and walked in. It was a simple room with 2 beds, a couch, a table with chairs, a closet, and a small window aimed towards the town. Naruto immediately dropped his fan to the ground and plopped to the bed while Hinata went to look through the window and watched the activity going around in the town. After a couple of minutes, Naruto sat up in the bed and got into lotus position and started meditating. He took long breaths and sensed his heart rate slow down. He channeled chakra to his ears and he could hear everything, the water dripping in the bathroom, a small fly buzzing around, and even Hinata's heart rate. He decided to expand his senses to see if he could locate Tsunade around town, but was surprised he didn't feel any Hirishin seals nearby, and he placed one in Hinata's ring. Naruto opened his eyes and looked towards Hinata, who was now sitting on the couch reading something. His eyes trailed towards her hands and noticed that she still had her fox ring on. He tried once again to feel the Hirishin marker but couldn't. As H was sensing the mark, he felt that Hinata's chakra was different from what he knew. Something is wrong, Naruto thought as he watched carefully Hinata. She seemed normal for now, but her chakra was different and the Hirishin mark didn't work. Hey Hinata-chan, Naruto called out, gathering her attention. Did you know that Arrow Sennin said that my Raise-non wasn't complete? Naruto asked. No, I didn't know. What is missing? Hinata asked and Naruto smirked. Naruto, faster than lightning, pulled a kunai and threw it at the top of his speed towards Hinata. She didn't even consider that Naruto would attack her and got hit, and the kunai embedded deep on her right shoulder, missing her heart by a few inches. Not even a couple of seconds later, Hinata exploded in a poof of smoke, revealing that it was nothing more than a shadow clone. Naruto was about to sit down and try to sense her Hirishin marker when the door of his room was destroyed and two people were standing there. They were both tall and they were wearing a long black cloak with red clouds in them, and both had a straw hat with a small bell hanging there. Naruto couldn't see their faces, and as such he couldn't identify his enemies. His pervert of a godfather picked the worst moment to go chase women. Naruto sensed their chakra levels and noticed one of them had high cage chakra levels while the other was through the roof. One of the enemies was on par with him, not counting the Kyuubi. Where is Hinata? Naruto asked, but both of them remained impassive. They removed their hats and showed Naruto who exactly they were. Uchiha Itachi, Naruto said, and immediately his Sharingan flared to life. Looks like the rumors were true. You really have the Sharingan, Itachi said in his monotone voice. I will say this one more time. Where is Hinata? Naruto asked. If you touched a single hair on her head, I swear to Kami I'll kill you both, Naruto said, pissed off. All bark but no bite, the shark-like man said, laughing. Cage Shuriken no Jutsu, Naruto said, and threw a single shuriken that multiplied upon dozens, heading towards both intruders. Kisame just swinged his massive blade and swatted the shurikens aside, making them fall to the ground harmlessly. He will be annoying. Can I cut his legs? He won't need them, Kisame asked Itachi. Enough, Kisame, Itachi replied and turned to Naruto. Naruto-kun, as long you come peacefully with us, Hinata will not be harmed, Itachi said in his monotone voice. So you are with the Akatsuki, right? Naruto asked, and both raised an eyebrow until it clicked in Itachi's mind. Jiraiya told you, didn't he? Itachi rhetorically asked. Yes, he did, but enough of that. Where is she? Naruto asked. Now that would be telling, Kisame taunted. I had enough of this, Naruto said. Formed a shadow clone, find her, he ordered the clone, that immediately dropped to the ground in the lotus stance, with the original not taking the eyes of both Akatsuki members. The clone extended his senses as far he could to try locating Hinata's marker. A few seconds later he found it. I have her position, the clone replied, and Naruto nodded. Itachi and Kisame both wondered what he meant when he said he had her position. Go rescue her, Naruto said, and the clone vanished in a flash of yellow light heading towards Hinata's marker. That was the Hirishin no Jutsu, Itachi said, God-smacked, and even Kisame raised an eyebrow. After all, the Hirishin technique was well known through the world and the legend that created it. You think I wouldn't take precautions? Naruto asked loud enough for them to hear as they watched him walk through the room and pick a weapon they didn't notice it was there. That's Madara's gunbei, Itachi thought as small smile graced his lips. The kid was really full of surprises. Naruto channeled chakra to his storage seals and took a couple of three-pronged kunais. With lightning speed and precision he threw them towards the Akatsuki members. Kisame was about to bring his sword to deflect them when he was grabbed by Itachi and flinged to the hall as Naruto appeared in front of him with a Raise-non in hand. Damn it, Kisame, pay attention and stop underestimating your opponent, Itachi said as Kisame got up. You remember what happened when you kidnapped Hinata, Itachi said, and Kisame pouted. According to Kisame, Hinata was a slippery bitch and SH didn't go down without a fight. Hinata managed to land a few juken strikes that would have crippled anyone else and kicked him where the sun doesn't shine, but thanks to his sword, Same Hata, he managed to reopen his chakra points and heal any damage. Fine, Kisame replied, and both took a stance. The brat might not be that good, but the Hirishin technique wasn't to be underestimated, and apparently the brat knew the Raise-non was well. Itachi activated his Sharingan and both Sharingan users locked eyes as if measuring the power beneath them. Itachi was surprised when he saw Naruto's chakra aura around him. He seemed to radiate a power but in a calm way. His chakra seemed powerful and violent, but yet Naruto was calm and collected. "Be careful, Kisame, his chakra levels are on par with yours," Itachi said, and Kisame laughed. "Finally a challenge, we might need to change the location if this escalates," Kisame said, snickering. He never knew someone that had as much chakra as him, and finding such opponent was always good. "We can't prolong this fight or Jiraiya might sense his chakra," Itachi explained and locked eyes with Naruto. "I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but this is where it ends," Itachi said, and Naruto got confused to what Itachi was taking about. Itachi talked as if his next move would ensure his victory. Naruto watched as Itachi closed his eyes and concentrated. The moment he opened, the ordinary 3-tone mode Sharingan was replaced by a 3-pointed shuriken. "Tsukuyomi," Itachi said the moment his eyes opened. "You are using those eyes too much, Itachi-san," Kisame said as Itachi caught Naruto in his genjutsu. It was necessary. He knew how to use the Hirishin and was going to prove himself difficult to catch, Itachi explained. Hashtag Tsukuyomi world hashtag Naruto's world shifted into another completely different. Naruto was now in an open field, but the sky was red and clouds and sun deep black. Suddenly Itachi appeared in front of him, staring intently at him as if studying him. "So this is the Tsukuyomi," Naruto said as he studied the illusion. "This is the ultimate genjutsu of the main Jikyo Sharingan. And here I am God, I control everything, even time itself. 3 days in here are but 3 seconds in the real world," Itachi explained as Naruto was suddenly trapped in a wooden cross and Itachi appeared in front of him with a sword. "You seem very proficient in this genjutsu," Naruto said and turned to lock eye with Itachi. "How is your eyesight these days?" Naruto innocently asked and Itachi froze. He couldn't have, it's impossible, not even the tablet says that the main Jikyo blinds the user, Itachi thought as he eyed Naruto very carefully and wearily. "How do you know?" Itachi asked, actually interested. "I know a lot, Itachi, and I know you will eventually end up blind," Naruto cryptically said, taunting Itachi, but he didn't bite. Itachi studied Naruto very carefully, particularly his Sharingan. His chakra pathways beneath Naruto's eyes seemed very well developed, indicating he had the Sharingan for years now. "You really are Madara's grandson. I've noticed that you awakened your eyes a few years ago," Itachi said, and Naruto nodded. "I was 5 at the time," Naruto explained, and Itachi raised an eyebrow. "You are skilled, a shame we must take you. Now let's begin," Itachi said and was about to stab Naruto when he got interrupted. "How about we don't get started," Naruto said, and Itachi was surprised by his statement. Suddenly Naruto's eyes started spinning until it turned into a complete new pattern. "A main Jikyo?" Itachi asked, surprised. He would never in a million years expect Naruto to have advanced his Sharingan to the next level. Suddenly the whole world froze and Itachi was rooted in place. Piece by piece the Tsukuyomi world started shattering until it remained nothing but pieces on the floor, like a mirror breaking. Moments later Naruto was back in the real world, still staring at Itachi. Hashtag real world hashtag Kisame was about to ask what happened when Itachi fell to his knees, clutching his head in pain and bleeding from his eyes. "You broke my Tsukuyomi?" Itachi asked, but it was more a statement as he noticed that Naruto wasn't even affected by the genjutsu and he broke it like nothing. Jinhyurikis are immune to illusions. "You should now," that Naruto said, taunting Itachi, and Kisame reacted by swinging his sword and trying to smack Naruto, but to his surprise his sword phased right through Naruto. When the sword left his body, Naru turned and tried to slam a Rasengan into his chest, but to Naruto's surprise the Rasengan was absorbed into the sword. That was like Madara's technique. Is it because he is his grandson? Itachi thought as he watched Kisame's sword phase right through Naruto. "What the hell?" Naruto asked when he noticed his Rasengan being literally eaten by his sword. "My sword absorbs chakra, ninjutsu is useless against me," Kisame said, laughing, and tried another swing, making Naruto jump back. "Then taijutsu is the only thing left," Naruto thought, and looked back at Itachi, who was still recovering from Naruto breaking his illusion. "Ninjutsu is useless as long he has his sword," Naruto mused in thought. Naruto decided to employ his strongest form of taijutsu. He channeled lightning chakra through his arms and legs to increment his strength and was using his Kamui to outmaneuver Kisame. Naruto jumped in the air and tried a spin kick, making Kisame tilt back slightly. Naruto allowed this opening and gave him an upward kick on his arm, removing the same hata from his grasp. Naruto picked the sword by the hilt but was surprised when the sword's hilt expanded and shredded his hand's skin, making him drop the sword on the ground and clutch to his bleeding hand. Taking this advantage, Naruto was forced to duck under a kick. Kisame saw Naruto duck and placing his hands on the ground for support used his other leg to kick his shoulder and throw him back. Naruto used this opportunity and slipped an explosive tea in Kisame's chest without him noticing. Naruto was pushed back by the kick, he flipped midair and landed on the ground harmlessly. Kisame was grinning like a madman until Naruto placed his right hand on the tiger sign and said Kai and the tag exploded killing Kisame. Now for you, Naruto said as he walking towards Itachi, who was slowly regaining his footing from the pain he got. Naruto was about to attack him when he was kicked from behind and sent flying into the wall. Naruto shakily got up and wiped a bit of blood from his mouth. He had cracked a rib from that kick, but Kurama was already healing him. Thank God he had the fan on his back, otherwise that kick would have done a lot more damage. Naruto got up to see who was the author of said kick and noticed Kisame was grinning at him. I know for sure you weren't a clone, Naruto said, surprised to see Kisame back to his feet like nothing had happened. As long as I have chakra, my sword heals me for everything. I don't tire and I never fall, Kisame said, grinning. They are both dangerous opponents. If Itachi can use the Tsukuyomi, then he might be able to use those other two, Naruto thought. Kisame, be careful, he has the main Jikyo as well, Itachi explained, and Kisame took notice to Naruto's new eyes. He grinned, happy to see that he would have a good fight. Up until now they all were doing lame missions without any worthy adversary. Naruto was about to dash towards them when he received information from his clone. Hashtag with Naruto's clone. Hashtag Naruto identified Hinata's marker and noticed she was about a mile from their current location. He pulled the marker and was teleported to Hinata's location. He arrived at some room with everything dark. He activated his Sharingan to scan his surroundings when he noticed Hinata tied to a chair, all beat up with blood dripping from her lips. Naruto quickly made his way towards her and gently lifted her head to notice she was barely awake, but at least she was alive. Hinata. Naruto asked, gently shaking her from her slumber. And Naruto-kun? Hinata barely managed to ask. Her voice was slipping and she was in pain all over. Don't worry, you are safe now, Naruto said and warped her into his Sharingan dimension and placed her down on the floor since he didn't exactly have a bed on his dimension. Kuki-yos no jutsu, summoning technique, Naruto said, and in a poof of smoke Kagura appeared. Kagura, hurry and help Hinata, Naruto quickly said, not even giving her time to realize where she was. Kagura immediately dropped next to Hinata and started doing a routine exam on her body. She was a bit bruised but she didn't seem to have any external wounds. Where are we? Kagura asked. She looked at her surroundings and she was sitting on some metal cube. She looked around and there was nothing at the horizon but more cubes. The sky was pitch black, no sun, no clouds, no sound, no wind, nothing, emptiness and darkness. We are in my pocket dimension created by my Sharingan. We are safe here, Naruto explained as Kagura was healing Hinata. She has multiple cracked ribs as well, her left leg and a dislocated shoulder, Kagura explained, and Naruto clenched his fists. They were going to pay. And Naru? Hinata tried to say. SHHH. Don't talk, Hinata. Rest now, you are safe, Naruto explained and gently kissed her forehead and she went to sleep. Kagura, take care of her, I need to inform the boss, Naruto said. Naruto saw Kagura nodding and dispelled in smoke. Hashtag back to Naruto. Hashtag, you heard Hinata-chan, you are going to pay, Naruto said, and they both braced themselves for what was coming. Their leader warned them about engaging a Jinhuriki or even worse, a pissed-off Jinhuriki. Come Kurama, Naruto said to his partner. Yes, let's show them what happens when they hurt our mates, Kurama replied and started sending his chakra to Naruto. In the real world, Naruto was started to get enveloped in a blood-red chakra cloak. His eyes maintained his main Jikyu activated, but his whiskers became more defined and his fangs elongated. Behind Naruto were 9 chakra tails swinging wildly. You are going to pay, Naruto said, and in a shockwave he launched himself at the top of his speed towards Itachi. The shockwave blew up the hall of the hotel and destroyed part of the wall. They all jumped out. Itachi and Kisame were running out of town with a pissed Jinhuriki on their tail. Both of them shared the same thought. She at hashtag with Jiraiya. Hashtag Jiraiya was happily walking through town showing his date some fun and winning a few prizes for her. Jiraiya didn't know if today was a special day, but the stores were bursting with activity and providing multiple games for tourists. You see that? Jiraiya asked, and the woman giggled at his excitement. He did manage to break all the plates, but it was nothing special for a shinobi. Suddenly a massive amount of chakra washed through the city and even the civilians were panicking and running like wild chickens from the feeling they got. Damn it Naruto, Jiraiya thought as he was preparing to run towards his godson. Sorry but I have to leave, Jiraiya said and jumped away from his company quickly running towards his godson. Hashtag with Orochimaru and Kabuto hashtag both of them felt the Kyuubi's chakra being unleashed and it wasn't very far from their location. It felt like he was about 5-6 miles away from them. Looks like the Kyuubi brat is in town, Orochimaru said chuckling, though I wonder what he could be doing to be using this amount of the Kyuubi's chakra, Orochimaru wondered. It might be the Akatsuki, Kabuto provided an explanation, should we go help? Kabuto asked. Naruto-kun can take care of himself, Orochimaru said chuckling evilly. After all I don't pick weak in ordinary vessels, Orochimaru explained. But Sasuke-kun isn't even close to the level of Naruto-kun, Kabuto said. How very true, Orochimaru agreed. However Sasuke is driven by vengeance and he will be easier to convince and he also has the Sharingan. I would prefer Naruto-kun above all others since he even has the main Jikyo but he won't come easily Orochimaru explained and Kabuto nodded. Hashtag with Tsunade and Shizune hashtag both women were at a bar with Tsunade drinking herself stupid with sake. After what she just heard from Orochimaru it wasn't particularly hard to understand why she was doing this. Even though Tsunade was lightly drunk both of them could easily feel the chakra that washed through the whole town. The chakra felt like power beyond anything, it felt like transcended human understanding. Tsunade-sama, do you feel that? Shizune asked shivering. She knows very well what the Kyuubi did to Konoha 14 years ago. Tsunade asked lifting her head from the table. Her cheeks were red from all the alcohol she had ingested. That's Kyuubi, Tsunade said and she was performing a self-healing technique designed to quickly purge the sake from her system. Shizune, let's go, Tsunade said picking up her jacket and running out of the bar heading towards the chakra source. Hi Shizune replied following her sensei. Hashtag back with Naruto hashtag Itachi and Kisame were running out of town with Naruto hot on their trails. They stopped near an empty field and decided to make their stand there. Kisame, we can't prolong this. Jiraiya definitely sensed the Kyuubi's chakra attack is stressed out and Kisame nodded. What do you suggest? Kisame asked. He dropped the playful attitude and took a more serious one. Any Jinhyuriki using their Baijiryu would be a dangerous opponent. The Tsukuyomi is useless and using it again would most likely knock me out, Itachi explained. Keep him busy. The backslash from Tsukuyomi weakened me and I need to gather chakra for the next move, Itachi said and Kisame nodded. So you finally stopped running? Naruto asked approaching both Akatsuki members. He was calmly walking towards them in all fours. Itachi jumped slightly back and started concentrating while Kisame stood his ground to face off against Naruto. Let's play, Naruto said and rushed Kisame at blinding speeds, but Kisame wasn't an S-rank shinobi for nothing and could track him rather well. He quickly approached Kisame and tried to punch him by extending his chakra arm, but Kisame jumped to the side. Naruto brought his chakra claw down again, but Kisame blocked it with his sword and absorbed the chakra, destroying the chakra hand. So you can even absorb Baijiryu's chakra? Naruto asked surprised. Baijiryu's chakra was one of the most potent ones out there. Yes, and by the looks of it Samehada likes your chakra, Kisame said grinning as Samehada was shaking with excitement at eating such good chakra. Suten, Baku Suishao Urha, great exploding water wave, Kisame said and pumped his lungs full of chakra, expelling a gigantic wave of water that came crashing into the ground. Naruto jumped up to avoid being hit and landed back on the water once it calmed down. Raiten, Hibashi, electromagnetic murder, Naruto said and channeled lightning churka through the water trying to shock Kisame, but to his surprise the sword absorbed it once again at the water remaining. That sword is annoying, Naruto said and Kisame laughed. I know, isn't it great? Kisame said. Suten, Gaso Kyuzumi, 5 hungry sharks, Kisame said and slammed his hand onto the water. As he poured chakra into the water, it started molding until it formed 5 sharks that started speeding towards Naruto, who remained in place. The sharks quickly arrived near Naruto and flew out of the water trying to eat him, but Naruto just swatted them away like flies using his fan. In just a second all the sharks disintegrated back into water. Acting on the surprised face of Kisame, he quickly threw a 3-pronged kunai towards him as fast as he could. Kisame snapped out of his stupor and jumped as far as he could and managed to avoid a raise onto his chest. It seems Naruto-kun's range is limited to about 15 feet from the kunais, Itachi concluded as he watched Naruto's Hirishin. Itachi was gathering up chakra, but he could still watch and analyze the battle for any weakness Naruto may have. Kisame, stay 15 feet away from the kunais, Itachi yelled out and Kisame nodded. He figured it out. Naruto thought, a bit surprised, but Itachi wasn't called a prodigy for nothing. Naruto was busy in his thoughts. He noticed Kisame appear right behind. Suten, Suro no Jutsu, water prison, Kisame said, and water enveloped Naruto, trapping him inside a water bubble. I got you now, Kisame said, grinning. No you don't, Naruto said, and using his Kamui he simple walked out of the bubble, much to the surprised face of Kisame. Naruto took the moment and with a well-placed kick threw his same Hata away from him. Naruto channeled chakra to his right hand and a swirling sound could be heard. Budama raise non, Naruto said, but he still couldn't maintain his big raise non and it destabilized, blowing up in front of him. Kisame's chest got a few deep wounds like they were made with claws and was thrown backwards, bleeding from his chests. Same Hata quickly approached his master and healed him. In just a few seconds Kisame was back on his feet. I really hate that sword, Naruto thought, sighing. If he didn't find a way to rid him off that sword permanently, this would go on until one of them ran out of chakra. Katon, Kukaku no Jutsu, great fireball technique, Naruto said, and this time sent a big fireball powered with the Kyuubi's chakra towards Itachi, who wouldn't be able to dodge in time. Kisame quickly appeared in front of Itachi and said, Suten, Sujin Hiki, water wall, and a water wall rose up and blocked the fireball, creating a mist of steam that quickly dissipated as it was an open field. Naruto, using the mist as cover, made shadow clones that took his place while the original went beneath the water and underground. Kisame was quickly running towards Naruto to keep him busy and away from Itachi, so he didn't realize it was only a clone. Shadow clone explosion, the clone, Naruto said, and exploded. Kisame brought his sword in time and blocked the fire and jumped back to find Naruto, only to see him right in front of Itachi. The original Naruto quickly rose from the ground right in front of Itachi. Naruto's eyes were glowing with power. Naruto locked eyes with Itachi and whispered Tsukuyomi #Naruto's Tsukuyomi world #Naruto dragged Itachi into his own genjutsu. Naruto, after seeing Itachi's Tsukuyomi, knew how to perform it. Since Naruto's Tsukuyomi was copied from Itachi, his world was similar. The sky was red with sun and clouds being pitch black. Welcome to my world. In here I'm God, I control everything, even time itself, Naruto said, smirking and taking a page from Itachi's book. Very impressive, Naruto-kun, to be able to use this technique on your first try, Itachi said. Thank you, Naruto said, and like Itachi he started stabbing Itachi with swords over and over, but Itachi didn't scream or wince once. But Itachi said, and Naruto focused on him. You are still far away from mastering it, Itachi said, and the Tsukuyomi snapped like a twig and they were brought back to the real world. #real world Naruto was brought forcefully to the real world and arrived just in time to duck under a swing from Same Hata. However, the sword still grazed him and yanked a chunk of his chakra, forcing Naruto into a three-tailed state. Damn, that sword can eat, Naruto thought as he looked towards Same Hata, who seemed to grow in size quite a bit. This is it, Naruto-kun, Itachi said, and his right eye started bleeding. Amaterasu, Itachi said, and around Naruto, black flames appeared out of nowhere and started burning Naruto. Naruto was enveloped in the black flames and his three-tailed cloak proved useless against the heat and power of the flames. Naruto quickly activated his Kamui and walked out of the flames with his skin scorched. What? He can even avoid the Amaterasu flames, Itachi said, astonished. He would never expect Naruto's main Jikyo powers to be this powerful. It only proves that Madara is a real menace, Itachi thought. If Naruto is this powerful in such young age, didn't even want to think what power Madara could have. Naruto took a couple of heavy breaths and recomposed himself. Kurama had already healed the scorched skin, so Naruto was good to go. Naruto looked carefully at the black flames and analyzed them as best he could. So that's the Amaterasu, Naruto thought, and Kurama nodded as he had seen them before. If I didn't have the Kamui I would resort to Fuinjutsu, but it would take time, Naruto pondered and thought. So that's how they are created, Naruto thought to himself. By making the particles vibrate to insane levels he summons intense flames, and by making them absorb the radiation, it sustains the vibrations and makes their color black, Naruto concluded after looking very carefully at the flames. He would have to try this later, but it was time to end this. Naruto, be careful, he may be able to use the Susanoo, Kurama warned him. Itachi had already used 2 of 3 powers of his eyes. I will, Naruto replied as he watching them very carefully. Itachi looked like he was about to faint. Being a half-blood with a main Jikyo must be very taxing and painful. The brat is tough, Kisame said. Kisame was relatively healthy and his chakra reserves weren't even winded much like Naruto. Itachi on the other hand was a mess. Time to end this, Naruto said before coiling himself with his 3 tails around him. Naruto was enveloped in a blackish-purple barrier that blocked Kisame's view of Naruto. A second later the barrier exploded with a roar and their eyes widened to WH they saw. It was Naruto, however it wasn't the one they knew. Naruto was now completely enveloped in the Kyuubi's chakra as it became his own skin. His ears were bigger, his eyes were still blood red with the Mangekyo, and he had 4 tails in his back. This WA his version 2 cloak, and he looked like a miniature Kyuubi. Ready? The Kyuubified Naruto asked, smirking. You think you can scare us? Kisame rhetorically asked before flashing through hand seals and slamming his hands on the remaining water. Suten, Sensho Kyuko, 1,000 hungry sharks, Kisame said, and from the water countless sharks emerged, all going towards our blonde. As the sharks were coming closer, Naruto simply raised his right hand/paw and slammed it to the ground with huge force. A big shockwave emerged and vaporized all the sharks along with the water. When the dust settled down, there was nothing more than a crater with Kisame holding Itake. We have severely underestimated the brat, Kisame said, taking deep breaths, and Itake gave him a look that clearly said, you think. They didn't have time to think as Naruto was preparing his next attack. His tails were coiled around Naruto, ending just above his head. Blue and red chakra was seen floating in the air. Suddenly all the chakra started compressing until it formed a perf sphere still hovering midair. Both Kisame and Itake were watching very carefully just what he was about to do until he swallowed the chakra sphere. He ate it. Kisame asked out loud. Naruto had just eaten the ball when Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune arrived at the scene. Naruto, is that you in there? Jiraiya asked, but Naruto couldn't exactly speak right now. Jiraiya, what is happening? Tsunade asked to her teammate. She didn't have much experience in fighting Jinchurikis or using seals. Brace yourselves, Naruto managed to say before the ball exploded in his stomach, making him look like a hamster. From Naruto's mouth came smoke, and it was clear that something was about to come out. Baijuudama, Naruto said, and reddish ball of energy exploded from Naruto's mouth, going with tremendous speed towards both Akatsuki members. Itake's eyes glowed just before the energy ball hit them and exploded, destroying everything. The ground was shaking like an earthquake. The wind was furiously pushing everything back and everything was torn apart, even the earth itself was destroyed. What in the war? Jiraiya was cut off as he had summoned the stomach of a toad to protect himself along with Tsunade and Shizune from the blast and the heat the wind was carrying. The blast was over and the dust was clearing, and right in front of Naruto there was nothing more than destruction. Around Naruto was a 20-meter wide crater, but the real damage was directly in front of him, a 100-meter path that was blasted away. As the dust cleared, Jiraiya dropped his shield and his jaw dropped at the destruction ahead of him. The whole plain where they stood was now nothing more than rubble. Kisame and Itake were still alive as Itake had a reddish humanoid barrier around him. That's it, Naruto. The Susanoo. Kurama said from his mind, and Naruto watched as Itake rose from the ground with his Susanoo still active. The shield withstood a low-powered Baijuudama, Naruto replied to his partner. That is just a watered-down version of it. The real Susanoo can destroy mountains by itself, Kurama explained, and Naruto got giddy. Kisame, we are leaving, Itake said and fainted. Kisame picked him up and as fast as he could shined away from the area. They were barely holding against Naruto, but now Jiraiya and Tsunade had arrived. Naruto, are you in there? Jiraiya asked as he approached the Kyuubified Naruto with caution. Yes, it's me, Naruto said as he dropped his cloak and sat on the ground to catch his breath. What in the world was that? Jiraiya almost yelled out, pointing towards the blast field. That was the Baijuya's ultimate attack. It's called a Baijuudama, tailed beast ball, and that is what my father based the Rasengan on, Naruto explained as he got up to his feet and cleaned his forehead of sweat. You picked the best time to go peek at the hot springs. They kidnapped Hinata, Naruto said, and Jiraiya's eyes widened. Did you get her back? Jiraiya asked. I did, but she was injured. I've got a medical fox taking care of her, Naruto explained and turned to see Tsunade and Shizune looking at him with their jaws on the ground. By the way, I found Tsunade, Jiraiya said, and everyone's sweat dropped. Hey there, Baa-chan. Hey there, Baa-chan, grandmother, Naruto said with a small smile as he was watching Tsunade and another girl who was with her. He had finally found the last bit of family he had. Although his grandmother was supposed to be around 60 years old, she didn't look older than 30, and it was no lie when they said that Senju Tsunade was one of the most beautiful women on earth. Tsunade was just staring at the blonde in front of her that had just decimated the field where they were standing. The moment he turned, her breath got caught in her throat. The moment she saw what he looked like, that golden blonde hair, those deep blue eyes like an ocean, and when Jiraiya called him Naruto, she started shaking. He's a carbon copy of Minato with longer hair, Tsunade was thinking. After all this time she thought she was alone in this world, that her family was all gone, and now she finds her grandson not even 10 feet in front of her smiling at her. Tsunade didn't know what to think or do and did the only thing she felt was right. She blurred right past Jiraiya and Shizune and engulfed Naruto in a deep hug while crying in happiness. And Naruto Kuntsuand whispered while hugging him fiercely as if he wasn't real. Tears were rolling off her eyes and falling to his shirt. BBABAH, Naruto replied while sobbing and hugging her back. He had finally found family and he was happy that Tsunade didn't reject him or leave him if her reaction was anything to measure by. Jiraiya and Shizune watched the scene with smiles on their faces. This was what Tsunade needed. She needed a small bit of her family back, and she got it in the form of her long-thought dead grandson. They ended the hug and Tsunade cleaned her tears while her eyes were still red. She crouched in front of him. "Let me take a good look at you," Tsunade said. Her voice filled with so much happiness was intoxicating. Naruto just chuckled and rubbed the back of his head much like his father did. Tsunade was observing Naruto as best as she could. He had long blonde hair with bangs that framed his face and slightly covered his right eye. His eyes were deep blue like an ocean and he had 3 whiskers marks on each cheek. "You are so cute," Tsunade squealed and hugged him again, making the others' sweat drop. "I bet you have a horde of fangirls back home," Tsunade said, laughing. She seemed to have forgotten everything that had happened today. She was finally happy and didn't want to let go of this feeling. "Speaking of girls," Naruto said, breaking the hug. "I'll be right back," Naruto, and swirled away into his eyes. Tsunade caught the blood-red Sharingan eyes but filed it for later questions. Naruto reappeared not even a second later with a girl in his arms and a small fox on his shoulders. Hinata had already been healed and was now sleeping peacefully. "Who is she?" Tsunade asked as she watched the girl that Naruto was carrying bridal style. "She is Hyuga Hinata, my girlfriend," Naruto explained, and Tsunade nodded. He figured that a fine-looking brat like him would already been snatched by someone, but she would see if the girl was worthy it. "She was kidnapped by Itaki and Kisame, but I managed to get her back and summon a healing fox," Naruto explained and turned towards Tsunade. "Can you check her just to make sure?" Naruto asked, and Tsunade bit her lips. As long there wasn't blood, she would be fine. Tsunade's hands started glowing green and started scanning Hinata's body from head to toe. She seemed to stop briefly on top of her chest as if assessing the damage. She had a couple of broken ribs and dislocated shoulder, but she is fine now. "Shion needs to rest," Tsunade explained, and Naruto sighed in relief. "I owe you, Kagura," Naruto said. "Not at all, Naruto-sama," Kagura said and disappeared in smoke. "Look at the mess you made," Jiraiya said to Naruto, and kicking a piece of rubble on the ground. "They kidnapped Hinata-chan, so I tried to kill them for real. I wasn't messing around against them," Naruto said in a serious voice, and Jiraiya could only nod as he watched the devastation in front of him. "What flames are these?" Jiraiya mused out loud, looking intently at the black flames that were burning the rock and showing no signs of stopping. "Those are MADARA'S flames," Naruto said, and Jiraiya looked at him. "They can only be summoned by a Mangekyo Sharingan and can't be extinguished by anyone except the one who summoned them in the first place. They will burn for 7 days and 7 nights. They are hot as the sun and can turn anything to ashes," Naruto explained, and Jiraiya's eyes widened. "That was some powerful katon jutsu right there." "You said a Mangekyo?" Jiraiya asked, and Naruto nodded. "Does that mean you can do it as well?" Jiraiya asked. That would be a major power boost to Naruto if he was able to perform this technique. "I know how it works, so I just need to try it," Naruto said, and Jiraiya nodded. "And I also know how to the other one, the Tsukuyomi," Naruto said, and Jiraiya nodded again. Naruto was becoming more and more powerful by the day, and these 2 techniques he just gained would make him deadly against anyone. "So I wasn't seeing things when you warped away with some technique," Tsunade said towards Naruto. "How can you have the Sharingan? You are no Uchiha," Tsunade stated. "Actually, I have Uchiha blood," Naruto said, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "What do you know of my father's parents?" Naruto asked. "He is an orphan. He never knew his parents," Tsunade replied, and Naruto smiled. "He never got tired of the people's faces when he told them about his grandfather." "That is not true," Naruto said, grinning at her grandmother. "He knew very well who his father was and lived with him for the first 5 years of his life," Naruto said, and Tsunade concentrated on him. "Don't leave me hanging. Tell me, Tsunade said, and Naruto picked the fan from this back and placed it on the ground, grabbing it by the hilt. Is that? Tsunade asked, and her eyes widened when she pieced everything together. My grandfather was Uchiha Madara, Naruto said, and laughed at her expression. She was gaping like a fish out of water, and Sharingan was pale as a white sheet. This was his fan and he passed it on to my father, and now it belongs to me, Naruto explained. Be bulletin but. Tsunade tried to say, but her voice wasn't quite reaching. Madaraji didn't die when he fought Hashiramaji and later on had a son and named him Namikaze Minato, Naruto explained. Who am I to doubt him, Tsunade thought to herself, chuckling. Until now she didn't even know Naruto was alive to begin with. How about we continue this at the hotel, Naruto suggested, and everyone nodded and left towards the hotel that Naruto had rented. Ero Senin, Naruto said, and got a tick mark from the old pervert and laughs from both women. I should warn you about the hotel, Naruto cryptically said. Hashtag back at the hotel, hashtag the hotel itself was, mostly, fine if you don't count the chunk that was missing on the right side of the building. When Naruto entered his cloaked version and sped towards Itaki and Kisame, he unleashed a shockwave that tore down almost half the building. I hate Shinobi, the owner of the hotel was yelling through the streets while trying to clean up as best as he could. Not that a broom would help much against big chunks of rock and concrete. The owner turned around only to find the one responsible for said disaster calmly walking towards him. Yu, the owner yelled towards the blonde, pointing at him. Look at this mess, the owner yelled. Don't worry, Naruto said, trying to calm the owner down. My godfather here will gladly pay for everything, Naruto and said, and Jiraiya's eyes widened. What? Jiraiya yelled out, grabbing Naruto by the collar of his shirt. Why should I pay? Jiraiya asked rhetorically. You were the one that blew up the hotel, Jiraiya explained. They found me and hurt Hinata because you decided to chase some tail, Naruto explained, and Jiraiya scoffed. Besides, I've seen your money book and this won't even scratch the surface, Naruto said, and Jiraiya got suspicious. How do you know that? Jiraiya asked. Always look underneath the underneath. Besides, my eyes see more than chakra, you know, Naruto said, grinning. So pay the man and let's find another place so Hinata-chan can rest properly, Naruto said, and Jiraiya reluctantly agreed. He went to his pockets only to find his wallet missing and in the hands of Tsunade, who was already negotiating with the hotel owner, making Jiraiya cry anime tears. Life is so unfair, Jiraiya thought, crying in his mind. Suddenly Naruto felt Hinata stir and looked down at her. It appeared all that noise around them woke up his sleeping beauty. She tiredly opened her eyes to find herself in the arms of Naruto. Hey there, sleepyhead, Naruto said, watching Hinata open her eyes and look at him. How are you feeling? Naruto asked. I'm good, Hinata said, and watched her surroundings. I think I can walk, Hinata said, and Naruto shook his head, denying. You just woke up. Besides, I like carrying you, Naruto said, and kissed her forehead, making her snuggle closer to him. Kawaii, Sharingan yelled out. That's adorable, Sharingan said, fawning over both of them like a fangirl. Jiraiya was scribbling furiously on his notebook, not even noticing Tsunade. If you use my grandson for your research, I'll remove the thing that makes you a man, Tsunade shouted to the heavens, and Jiraiya stiffened and quickly placed his notebook on his pockets. Have mercy, Jiraiya pleaded on his knees. Sorry, all out of mercy, Tsunade said, cracking her fingers and figuratively rolling up her sleeves. Scary. Naruto thought, watching his grandmother beat his godfather to a bloody pulp. Jiraiya was screaming and asking for her to stop, but she didn't even waver. Oh lord, the pain, Jiraiya thought. Naruto decided it was time to save his godfather from Tsunade's wrath. How about we go for dinner? Naruto asked, and Jiraiya sighed in relief when the onslaught stopped. Sounds good, Tsunade replied, and kicked Jiraiya one last time where the sun doesn't shine, making wince in pain and gently nurse his manly parts. All the time he was cursing the blondes around him. Hashtag restaurant, hashtag the group found a small restaurant that had a few tables open since the others were all full due to the massive amount of tourists around town. They were all seated in a small table with Sharingan, Tsunade, and Jiraiya on one side and Naruto and Hinata and tea other. The menu was a few sardines with rice while Tsunade and Jiraiya were drinking sake. So Brad, how is the life? Tsunade asked while sipping bit of sake. She wanted to know about her grandson's life since she wasn't there for the beginning of his life. It was rough in my early years, but I'm good now, Naruto said, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Rough? Tsunade wondered what he meant exactly. Actually, since the Chunin exams they stopped calling me demon and trying to kill, Naruto blurted out, only for Tsunade's face to twist into one of anger. She forgot the Naruto was a Jinhuriki and she knew very well how most of them were treated in their village. Did they hurt you? Tsunade asked with so much fire in her eyes that the table slightly cracked from the pressure of her fists. Don't worry, they are over it now, Naruto said, calming her down. I showed them I had the Sharingan and that I belonged to the Senju clan and now they almost worship me, Naruto said, shaking his head. How could they be so superficial? Naruto was demon one day and the next he was the prince of Konoha. But I hold no grudge against them, Naruto said. You do realize that once you make Chunin you will be able to take the clan seat and will be forced into CRA, right? Tsunade asked. The CRA was the thing that drove her out of the village in the first place, and when Kushina died she nothing to go back for. I'm an elite Chunin by the way and I have already refused the CRA, Naruto said, chuckling. Elite Chunin, a brat like you. Where's the vest? Tsunade taunted him. I don't like wearing the vest, and didn't you see what I did to those Akatsuki members? They were both cage-level shinobi, Naruto explained, grinning back. Oh please, that was all the Kyuubi's doing, Tsunade said, waving him off. I like her, Kurama said from Naruto's mind. You like anyone that praises you, Naruto replied, sweat dropping. Fine, be that way, Naruto said, pouting, and everyone laughed. How did you refuse the CRA? Tsunade asked. It's mandatory by law, Tsunade explained. Simple. I threatened to leave the village if they forced me into it, Naruto said, grinning, and Tsunade chuckled. By the way, Jiraiya, why are you here? Tsunade asked, and Jiraiya sighed as the might be a difficult conversation. Sensei has asked us to find you and tell you that you've been chosen for Godame Hokage, Jiraiya asked, and Tsunade sighed. The moment Jiraiya said Sensei wanted her to become Hokage, she remembered what happened with Orochimaru. She agreed to meet with them in 1 week, and if she cured her arms he would destroy Konoha. I'm going back to the village, but it isn't to be Hokage, Tsunade replied, and Jiraiya raised an eyebrow in confusion. Sensei sent me a letter saying Naruto was dead the night the Kyuubi attacked, Tsunade explained. What? Naruto asked. That doesn't make any sense. He was the one that told me of you in the first place, Naruto explained. Something is off here, Jiraiya said. What did the letter look like? Jiraiya asked. Normal cage letter with his signature and stamp, Tsunade explained. The letter was long gone and she destroyed it the moment she read it. There isn't anyone else for the Hokage position, Jiraiya reasoned. How about you? Tsunade asked. My spy network is too important for the village, besides, I'm not the type of man to be behind a desk 8 hours a day, Jiraiya replied. I'm not becoming Hokage, it's a fool's job, Tsunade said, and Naruto subconsciously activated his Sharingan and started glaring at Tsunade. How dare you say that? Naruto asked. Hashiramajiji, Tobiramajiji, my father, all of our family took the Hokage position and died defending the village they love, Naruto was explaining. Exactly, they all died for nothing, Tsunade said. They died protecting the village they loved, and we should continue their legacy and protect the village they created, Naruto said, but Tsunade seemed reluctant to agree until a devious thought crossed Naruto's mind. How about a bet? Naruto asked, and Jiraiya smirked. What kind of bet? Tsunade asked, focused on Naruto. You and me outside. If I kick your ass you return to the village and become Hokage, Naruto said, and Tsunade pondered. He's just a genin, Tsunade thought. I agree, but if you lose I'll get all of your money and no Kyuubi, Tsunade said. I agree, Naruto replied. Let's take it outside then, Tsunade said, and they all walked outside to the middle of the street. This was all going so well, Hinata said, sighing, and both Jiraiya and Shizune agreed. Hashtag outside on the outside. Naruto and Tsunade were facing each other while Jiraiya, Shizune and Hinata were at the side watching. Last time to back out, Tsunade said, giving him a chance. I never give up and I never surrender because, to be Hokage, is my dream, Naruto said with unbreakable fire behind his eyes. Sharingan eyes for that matter. Tsunade smirked and she swore she saw a visage of Nawaka behind Naruto. Do as you wish, if you win I'll throw in this necklace as well, Tsunade and Shizune's jaw dropped as well Jiraiya's. Hashirama's necklace Naruto mused. Let's go then, Naruto said as he took his stance. Tsunade, I should warn you. Jiraiya was saying but was cut off. Please Jiraiya, I can take care of a genin, Tsunade said, smirking. Even if he is an elite chunin I still got him, Tsunade said. Even though she didn't say it, she wanted Naruto to win, but she wasn't going to make things easy. It's ironic, Hinata said, and got confused faces from everyone. The descendants of Hashirama and Madara are facing each other again, Hinata said, and they chuckled. Very true, Jiraiya replied, and all of them focused on the fight. Tsunade didn't have any stance, she was just standing there with her arms on her waist. Naruto was eyeing her carefully with his Sharingan blazing. Deciding to try and scare her off a little, he made his Sharingan start spinning very slowly. Tsunade watched carefully his spinning, constantly checking for chakra anomalies in her chakra network to look out for genjutsu. Naruto started speeding off his Sharingan until it started mutating slightly. Eventually the Sharingan started to slow down and the normal pattern was long gone and replaced by deep black eyes with a broken red circle with 3 circles in them. A Mangekyo. Tsunade wondered in thought as she watched Naruto's eyes very carefully. She dropped the carefree attitude and took a basic stance. She may never have faced an Uchiha with a Mangekyo, but her father had warned about the power those eyes had and that they weren't to be taken lightly. Tsukuyomi, Naruto said, and Tsunade's eyes widened just before her world disappeared and was replaced by Naruto's Tsukuyomi world. What is this? Tsunade asked as she walked around Naruto's world. Welcome to my strongest genjutsu, Naruto said, popping out of nowhere and standing in front of Tsunade. And here I'm God and I control everything, even time itself. 3 days here are but 3 seconds on the real world, Naruto explained, and Tsuna realized in just what mess she was. This is the second time I tried this jutsu and my control still sucks, but it should be enough to hold you, Naruto said, and Tsunade got pinned to a cross and Naruto stood there in front of her with a sword. What are you going to do? Tsunade asked. She didn't want to believe Naruto would torture her. I'm going to make you laugh to death, Naruto said, chuckling evilly, and the sword was replaced by a feather. Naruto started using his feather on Tsunade's sensitive spots. Tsunade bit her lips and tried to hold it, but she couldn't. Tsunade bursted out laughing and crying as she couldn't hold the tears. Ha 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 ha, Tsunade broke out laughing and crying, she could barely breathe. She wanted to bend over since her stomach hurt, but she couldn't as she was pinned to the stake. Mew. Naruto laughed evilly at the sight of Tsunade. /n. Check out Barney's evil laugh to get an idea. www.YouTube watch, v=cfg7s/snrxs, ## real world. 3 seconds later ## on the outside all of the viewers were oblivious to what was happening. They all heard Naruto call out his genjutsu, but they didn't know if Tsunade was caught as they were just staring at each other. Suddenly Tsunade fell to her knees breathing heavily with her eyes puffy red and one could see dried tears in her face. Damn brat, Tsunade said back in the real world as she crouched to regain her breathing. Naruto just grinned back at her. It was just by miracle that Tsunade didn't pass out. What did he do? Jiraiya asked, curious. He made me laugh for 72 hours straight, Tsunade said, and everyone's sweat dropped. That was a peculiar use for a genjutsu. I'll get you for that, Tsunade said before she started dashing towards Naruto with her fist cocked. She's using chakra in her fist, Naruto thought as he watched her approaching with his EMS activated. He brought his fan from his back and placed it in front of him. He grabbed the hilt with one hand and the other end with the other hand. That's not going to help, Tsunade, and slammed her fist hard into the fan. The moment her fist collided the fan, it was like a large bell echoing through the streets. The entire ground shook, but Naruto held his ground. His fan didn't crack or waver. Tsunade was flabbergasted that the fan was still in one piece. She didn't even put a dent in that thing. It was true that she wasn't using her strength to the max, but that punch was enough to bring down a wall, and yet the fan was still in one piece. Naruto flexed his fan and unleashed a current of air, making Tsunade jump back and gain some distance. Naruto placed his left hand in the tiger seal preparing to unleash a fire jutsu when he was interrupted by Jiraiya. Stop, Naruto, Jiraiya yelled, and both turned to him. Don't use ninjutsu in the middle of the street, Baka, Jiraiya explained, and Naruto nodded. Naruto took out a 3-pronged kunai and threw it at Tsunade, who watched it approach very carefully. The moment the kunai was about to pass next to her head, Tsunade caught it by the handle and started spinning it around her fingers. That wasn't a smart move, Naruto said, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. And why not? Tsunade asked. Did you notice that kunai isn't ordinary? Naruto asked with a grin and made Tsunade stop spinning the kunai and look at it carefully, and she noticed that it was a 3-pronged kunai with kanji on the handle. He couldn't have, Tsunade thought just before she saw a bright yellow flash. She was about to turn around when she felt Naruto kicking her ass, making her jump in the air and nurse her rear. The hell are you doing? Tsunade asked, nursing her butt. I win, Baa-chan, Naruto said, grinning with his foxy smirk. Care to explain how that is? Tsunade asked. I said I would win if I kicked your ass and I did just that, Naruto said grinning and started laughing at the faces of everyone when the realization hit them all. You tricked me, Tsunade said shaking her head. She couldn't win a damn bet to save her life. Hinata just shook her head. She knew Naruto was very devious and sneaky, probably having a fox sealed inside of him increased his cunning as well. She should have seen that coming. I did no such thing, Naruto innocently replied. You agreed to the bet, so will you come back with us to the village and become our Hokage? Naruto asked. Tsunade sighed in defeat and surprisingly relief. She walked calmly to Naruto and kneeled in front of him. She undid her necklace and wrapped it around Naruto's neck, kissing his forehead. Become a great Hokage like your Baa-chan, Tsunade said, placing her hand above his necklace and his heart. Naruto just smiled and hugged her. I'm glad it all worked out for the best, Jiraiya said and turned to Tsunade. Do I get a kiss too or perhaps a hug? Jiraiya asked, wiggling his eyebrows, and proceeded to be buried by Tsunade in her fists. Next day after last night's battle everyone got together and went to a hotel to spend the night. It was a pain in the ass for Tsunade to allow Naruto and Hinata to sleep together, but in the end she caved but warned them that they were too young for kids. They were all together eating breakfast silently when Tsunade remembered something. Naru-chan, why were you fighting those two yesterday anyway? Tsunade asked and Naruto sighed before starting his explanation. Don't call me that, it sounds girly, Naruto whined and Tsunade smirked. I like Naru-chan, it sounds better than Whiskers-kun, Hinata said giggling, making Naruto glare at her. Naruto sighed before starting. According to Erosenin, there is an organization called Akatsuki made up by S-rank criminals and they are after the Baijos, Naruto explained and Tsunade's eyes widened. It wasn't very common to see cage-level shinobi working together. They are rumored to have 10 members. Orochimaru used to belong to them until he betrayed them. For now I only know of Uchiha Itachi, Hoshigaki Kisame, Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara the Med Bomber. They are all S-rank, Jiraiya explained. By the way, Hinata-chan, Naruto said turning to her. How did they catch you? Naruto asked. Flashback, Naruto and Hinata had just parted ways with Jiraiya since he went towards the woman that blinked his way. They were both going towards the hotel when Hinata felt a chakra presence nearby. She activated her Byakugan and scanned the nearby roofs trying to pinpoint the signature. It turned out to be a big mistake. Since Hinata activated her Byakugan, her vision became almost 360 degrees, which meant she couldn't help but to not see a pea of blood-red Sharingan eyes. It was just a small glimpse before Hinata broke the genjutsu it was placed on her, but it was good enough to distract her and allow a shadow clone to perform a substitution with her. Hinata was now facing two people which had long black cloaks with reclouds in them and they were both wearing straw hats. The moment she was replaced and stood facing both of them, Kisame dashed towards her and tried to kick her in the chest to end this quickly. Hinata turned to the right, sidestepping the kick and, charging her hands with chakra, she tried a Jukin strike to his right shoulder. The attack connected but Kisame remained impassive. Hinata analyzed him with her Byakugan and noticed that her strike wasn't laced with chakra when she obviously charged it with. Hinata noticed that the sword had an active chakra network as if it was alive. Did the sword absorb the chakra? Hinata thought. What do you want? Hinata asked as she took the basic taijutsu stance. Let me play with her, Itaka-san, Kisame said. Itaka said nothing and took a few steps away from both of them. Itaka focused his attention on the faraway hotel. What do you want with me? Hinata asked again. Nothing. What we want is the Kyuubi brat, Kisame said grinning, and Hinata knew that these two belonged to the Akatsuki and were most likely cage-level shinobi. She knew she wouldn't stand much of a chance, but she wouldn't go down without a fight. Hinata flared her Byakugan and Kisame laughed and picked up his sword still wrapped in bandages. Hinata made a few hand seals and disabled her gravity seals and stood ready to face them. Kisame started grinning like a madman and tried a sword slash on Hinata to knock her away. She ducked under the swing. Kisame, using the momentum of his sword, tilted his body and tried to kick her again. Hinata sidestepped the kick and jumped the air. Hinata placed the hands on his legs supporting herself and kicked Kisame in the face, knocking him back. Kisame got up pissed he got it and ran forward where Hinata was waiting in her defensive stance. He quickly arrived and they exchanged a flurry of blows, but Hinata was far too slippery and fast for the slow and wide movements of Kisame and his SWO wasn't helping. Kisame was becoming more and more pissed. He placed the sword on his back and decided to engage the girl purely on taijutsu. It was a big mistake and Itaka just shook his head. Itaka could clearly see that Hinata had the advantage in taijutsu. She may seem small and weak, but that was compensated by her agility and speed. "Stay still," Kisame yelled as he couldn't even scratch her. If it was ninjutsu she would already been dead, but they couldn't use it because it may alert Jiraiya or Naruto. Hinata was supposed to be used as leverage. Hinata ducked under a punch and gave him a jukin strike on his right leg, making him kneel. Kisame tried a right hook and Hinata caught it with her left hand and gave him a jukin strike right to his hearth, destroying his hearth. "Bitch," Kisame said and shakily placed his hands on the sword to get healed. Hinata heard the comment and kicked him where the sun doesn't shine, making Kisame's eyes pop out of his sockets. Even Itaka cringed and shivered when he saw that. Hinata felt a presence behind and turned just to see Itaka give a kick to her shoulder. She got hit and the force of the kick made her turn towards Kisame, who had his sword ready, and slammed it against Hinata, making her fly into the ground. She crashed and was instantly knocked out. "She was a slippery bitch," Kisame said, huffing at her. "I'm tired of telling you to not underestimate your enemies. But you decided to engage in taijutsu against a Hyuga," Itaka said, sighing. "You do realize that if you didn't have that sword, you would have died, right?" Itaki asked, and Kisame scoffed. "Look at her, she's all small and skinny. It looks like she might break at any time," Kisame said, pointing at her. "Deception is a ninja's greatest weapon. She may look frail, but her skill is at least elite Jounin level, bordering Kage level," Itaka said, and he remembered the battle with his Sharingan. "Give it a couple of years and she will become a force to be reckoned with in taijutsu," Itaki explained. "Fine, I get it. Let's just get the brat, he can't be much more difficult than her," Kisame said, and towards Hinata, to pick her up, and then heads towards Naruto. End flashback. "Damn those two," Naruto said, clenching his fists. "Next time they will die," Naruto said. "It was my fault, Naruto-kun. I got caught in the first place and then ignored Itaka thinking he wouldn't interfere," Hinata explained, sighing. "Tsunade-sama," Hinata called out, and she focused on her. "Could you train me in the medical arts? I always wanted to become a combat medic," Hinata asked. She always had an interest in poisons, antidotes and medicine. "I'm surprised to see a Hyuga ask," Tsunade replied, surprised. "I've tried many times in the past to have Hyugas as medics due to the Byakugan, but the Hyuga clan couldn't lower itself to practice medicine," Tsunade said, scoffing. "Are you sure Hayashi will allow it?" Tsunade asked, and Hinata shifted uncomfortably. "I don't belong to the Hyuga clan anymore," Hinata replied. "What do you mean?" Tsunade asked, confused, thinking she didn't hear her right. "My father deemed too weak to be the heiress of the clan, so he branded me with the caged bird seal and disowned me from the clan when I was 8 years old. I've been living with Naruto-kun ever since. That is why we are so comfortable sleeping together," Hinata explained, and Tsunade got pissed. That wasn't the Leaf Village her father had created. They treated Jinhuriki like garbage and left their own children to fend to themselves. She never liked the Hyugas, but this had just hit a new low. "You don't have the seal," Tsunade said as she watched her forehead. "Naruto-kun managed to remove it," Hinata replied, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "So the brat was a seal master?" He was just full of surprises. "I will train you, Hinata," Tsunade said, and Hinata nodded, thanking her. "I need to talk to you about something," Tsunade said, and they all stopped eating and focused on her. "I'm supposed to meet with Orochimaru in 6 days, Tsunade said, and silence reigned at the table. "I suppose he wants you to heal him for what I've done to him," Naruto said. It was the only logical outcome as to why Orochimaru would search for Tsunade now of all times. "That's right. I agreed to meet with him in 6 days so we can end him there once and for all," Tsunade said, and Naruto got curious. "Why did you agree to meet with him at a later date?" Naruto asked, and Shizune looked carefully at Tsunade. "He said that he would bring back Dan, Nawake, and Kushina if healed him," Tsunade said, and no one said anything. "He had already brought back my mother when we fought against him during the invasion," Naruto said. Naruto started but stopped to think if it would be a good idea. "I can allow you to see them one last time," Naruto said, and Tsunade froze. "Naruto, you can't mean," Jiraiya started, but Naruto interrupted. "I can use the Edo Tensei without sacrifices, but the souls are only here temporarily. Once the time is up they go back to the pure world," Naruto explained and turned to Tsunade. Tsunade bit her lip deep in thought. She wanted nothing more to have them back but to see them leave again. "I want to see them again, one last time," Tsunade said, and Naruto nodded. "Let's finish breakfast and go outside and do it then," Naruto said, and everyone agreed. #outside restaurant, empty field #. Everyone left the restaurant and headed for an empty field where they could the ritual without being disturbed. Everyone took a few steps back and allowed Naruto to do his job. Naruto was lucky that Tsunade had a few strands of hair from all of them. She kept them as a reminder of them. Naruto took out a scroll and placed it on the ground. He channeled chakra into it and the kanji started spreading through the field, leaving 3 empty circles around the kanji. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Naruto said, and made 3 clones that went and sat on each of those circles. Shadow clones? Jiraiya asked. The Edo Tensei needs a vessel to anchor the souls to our realm. As long as the clone is chakra to sustain itself, I can use them as vessels, Naruto explained, and Jiraiya nodded. It made sense. Tiger rightward arrow, snake rightward arrow, dog rightward arrow, dragon. Naruto went through the hand seals, hand clapped his hands together, Kukiyos, Edo Tensei, summoning technique, impure world resurrection, Naruto said, and the clones started to become covered by leaves until they took the form of someone else. The first person was a man. He had long, pale blue hair that reached his back and dark green eyes. He wore the standard Konoha shinobi outfit of that time, complete with forehead protector and the pocketless flak jacket. He was Kato Dan, Tsunade's lover, and Naruto's maternal grandfather. The second person was also a young man. He had short light brown hair, green-gray eyes, and distinct blushes on his cheeks. For attire, he wore a dark teal poncho top and light green pants. He was Senju Nawake, Tsunade's younger brother. The third one was a woman. She had waist-length fiery red hair and blue eyes. She was wearing dark umbu pants and black umbu chest plate. She was Senju Kushina, Tsunade's daughter, and Naruto's mother. Where am I? Nawake asked. The last thing he remembered was running through an empty field and then a loud explosion followed by darkness. Kushina, Nawake, Dan, Tsunade said, looking at the 3 people that Naruto summoned back from the dead. You haven't changed a bit, Tsunade-chan, Dan said as he looked around. Kushi-chan, is that you? Dan asked the beautiful red-haired girl next to him. Yes, Tio-san. It's good to see you again, Kushina said, and looked around to find Naruto, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and some girl she didn't know. So, hello, Naruto said, scratching the back of head, and everyone focused on him. I've temporarily brought you back so Tsunade could say proper goodbye. You will be able to be here for around a day, Naruto explained, and everyone nodded. Naruto-kun? Kushina asked. Yes, Kaa-san. Naruto replied. Kaa-san? Dan asked, eyeing the blonde carefully. Then that would make me your grandfather. It's nice to meet you, Dan said. You too, grandfather, Naruto replied, and looked to his left to see Nawake talking to Tsunade, who was hugging him and crying. This is Hyuga Hinata, my girlfriend, Naruto said, introducing Hinata to his mother. Girlfriend, Kushina asked in a teasing tone, making them both blush deep red. How did that happen? Kushina asked, wanting all the juicy details. Kushina asked, and Naruto went and told her about everything that had happened. How when they first met, Naruto saved Hinata from a couple of bullies. A year later he saved her from being kidnapped by a Kumonin, and when Hinata got kicked out, confessed to each other. Oh, that's so cute, Kushina said with stars in her eyes. Did you know that your father and I fell for each other in the same way? Kushina and Naruto raised an eyebrow in confusion. Back when I was around 10 years old, Kumo tried to kidnap me because of my special chakra that allows me to create chains. When I was kidnapped, we had already reached the border and I was losing hope until your father appeared and saved me, Kushina said, and Naruto laughed at the coincidences. I guess we are meant to be, Naruto said, and kissed Hinata's cheek, making her snuggle into his arms, and Kushina merely nodded. She could already tell that Hinata was a very sweet girl that loved Naruto very much. How is the furball treating you? Kushina, and when she heard Naruto's stomach growl, that was response enough. I guess he doesn't like being called furball, Naruto replied, chuckling. What if I called you flesh bag, would you like it? Kurama asked. I guess not, but you've already called me that a couple of times, Naruto replied, and Kurama stayed silent. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Kushina asked as Naruto suddenly spaced out. He does that sometime when he talks with the Kyuubi, Hinata explained, and Kushina smacked her head for not thinking of that. Naruto got back to the reel of the living and noticed both of them looking intently at him. What? Naruto asked, and they were both staring at him. Nothing, it's just your face went through a couple of emotions and you almost looked like a clown, Kushina said, and Naruto's sweat dropped. You know, Kushina started gathering his attention. It's a shame you can't meet Minato-kun, Kushina said sadly. I already did, Naruto replied, making Kushina perk up in confusion. When I was 5 years old, I awakened my Sharingan and he appeared in my mindscape. He explained me everything that happened the night that I was born. He told me about his father and unlocked the Kyuubi's cage, Naruto explained, and Kushina nodded until Naruto's stomach grumbled. I guess I'm angry, Naruto said, chuckling. One of the things Naruto most liked is eating. It's almost noon, Naruto innocently said, and Kushina chuckled at his son's antics. All right, gather up, Naruto yelled, and everyone got together. It's noon. How about we go for lunch? Naruto asked, and everyone nodded. Wait, Jiraiya, and everyone stopped. Do Edo Tenseis even feel hunger? Jiraiya asked, and Naruto shrugged and turned to them. I could eat, but maybe it's just the vessel that is hungry, Kushina explained, but they all shrugged. It wasn't that big of a deal. So what should we go for? Tsunade asked. Ramen, Naruto and Kushina instantly replied, and everyone chuckled. It looked like Naruto got his ramen addiction from his mother. I'm not paying, Jiraiya quickly said, sealing his wallet away. Later that day, they all spent the day as a family should have, having fun and enjoying their company. Their lunch was an epic standoff and ramen eating contest between Naruto and Kushina. Unfortunately for Naruto, Kushina was an Edo Tensei and, as such, she could get full, and Naruto caved at 15 bowls, passing out. Dan and Noeka got to meet their grandson and grandnephew respectively. They all learned a lot on about the world had changed. Dan pretty much told Naruto stories of Hashirama and Tobirama since he was alive when they existed. So this is it, Tsunade said. Naruto felt that his shadow clones were running on fumes, and it would a couple of minutes before they dispelled, ending the jutsu. Don't cry, Tsunade-chan, it doesn't suit a strong woman like you, Dan replied with a small smile. I got to meet my grandson and see our daughter again, Dan said, and Tsunade slowly nodded. It hurt to see them leave again. It good to see you again, Tsunade said, and turned to Noeka. At least I got to give you a proper goodbye, Tsunade said. Don't worry, Ne-san, Noeka said, grinning. Even though I don't like to have been killed, at least we won. But one day it will be like Tio-san wanted. An era of peace without wars and conflict, when mankind will be able to understand each other, Nawa said. For someone so young, he sure had strong beliefs. This it, Naruto, I'm sorry for the burden we placed on you, Kushina said. Even though she got to know the fox very well and knew he would help Naruto, she knew that the village wouldn't honor Minato's wish. Don't worry, I'm happy you entrusted it to me, Naruto hugging his mother for the last time. And don't forget about the promise I made, Naruto said, and Kushina grinned. I'll be waiting. In the meantime, wait a couple of years before you give me grandsons, Kushina said, smirking, and they both blushed and looked away from each other. Goodbye, Naruto-kun, Kushina said before the clone dispelled and Kushina's body disintegrated until it remained nothing but leaves on the ground. Leave the rest of your life to the fullest, Dan said as he also disappeared. Bye, Ne-san, Noeka said, and vanished as well. No one said anything for a couple of minutes as they were all walking home. Tsunade was happy she got to see them all one last time, and Naruto was happy he got to talk and get to know his mother a bit more. Let's get ready, Tsunade said, and everyone got confused looks. I need a new snakeskin wallet, Tsunade said, smirking. Hashtag Akatsuki base, outpost 4 hashtag both Akatsuki members didn't expect to find such resistance from the Kyuubi hierarchy, especially when he was only 14 years old. Kisame managed to drag Itaka's unconscious body towards one of many Akatsuki outposts located around the Land of Fire. Kisame used his ring to call the leader of the organization. Not even 5 minutes had passed and an holographic figure appeared in the middle of the room. We couldn't see much from the figure besides it had short spiky hair, but the thing that stood out were his eyes. His eyes were dark silver with concentric circles around the pupil. /N. I know the Rinnegan is supposed to be purple, but I like the silver color more. Report, the figure said before looking carefully at both members, stopping at Itake. What happened to him? The figure asked as he took notice to the state of Itake. To put it simply, he looked like someone who was put through a blender. The Kyuubi brat happened to him, Kisame replied, and the figure looked at him in disbelief. You mean to tell me a 14-year-old knocked out Itake? The figure asked. We were severally outgunned. Our spies told us that he was the loud-mouthed dead last, but it was far from the truth, Kisame said. Explain, the figure said. For starts, the Kyuubi brat has, not only the Sharingan, but also the next level, the main Jakyu Sharingan, Kisame said. What? The figure asked. Something was missing. Itake, Sasuke and Madara were supposed to be the last Uchihas. It's true, he says he's Uchiha Madara's grandson. He broke Itake's Tsukuyomi like nothing, and the Amaterasu flames did nothing against him, Kisame explained. Madara's grandson, why didn't he tell me? The figure thought. Something here wasn't right. I see, what else can you tell me? The figure asked. He has some strange power that allows physical attacks to go through him as if he was a ghost, Kisame explained. The figure raised an eyebrow. Intangibility, like Madara's power, the figure thought. The Kyuubi brat was becoming more trouble than he first thought. Anything else? The figure asked. Oh yeah, he can use the Kyuubi's power without losing control. He went to Four Tails and that was sufficient to force Ataka to use his Susanoo, Kisame said. That is a problem, the figure replied, but no matter, your job was only recon. You did a good job, the figure said, and was about to leave when Ataka was the one who interrupted him. Are we to leave him alone for 3 years? Ataka asked. We don't know what level he might achieve with 3 more years seeing the level he is right now, Ataka said. Naruto was already very powerful and leaving him alone for 3 years to master the Manjikyu might not be the best move. If it comes to that, I'll take him down myself, the figure said, and was about to leave until he said one last thing. After all, no one can stand against a god. #Iwagakuer, Stone Village, #Iwagakuer no Sato, or the Hidden Stone Village, is one of the great 5 shinobi nations. Their leader is called Tsuchikage or Earth Shadow and their current one is Onaki. Onaki is a very short old man with a triangular beard and a mustache that has angular corners, a big red nose and thick eyebrows. The top of his head is completely bald, although he has long white hair on the lower half of his head which is styled in a traditional chonmage haircut, the back of which is tied with a yellow ribbon in a top knot. He wears a green and yellow coat with a red collar. Underneath he wears the traditional Iwagakuer outfit consistent of a light green version of Iwagakuer's flak jacket and mesh armor. He however has both his sleeves of his shirt, but kept the single lap on his right side. Along with this he wears sandals. The Stone Village is well known for the rock-hard attitude and extreme loyalty of their shinobi. Once their leader issues an order they will follow it blindly even if it costs their lives. The standard attire for shinobi from this village consists of red outfit, can have sleeves, a lapel which is usually found on the side without a sleeve, and a brown flak jacket. They also tend to wear mesh armor around their ankles. Iwagakuer ninja seem to specialize in earth release techniques. Speaking of the village itself, it's located in the midst of some rocky mountains. These mountains provide natural defenses making the village a stronghold. Unlike Konoha, the houses are built completely out of stone instead of wood, making them more durable and resistant in case of attack. Currently we find that Tsuchikage in his office navigating the maze of paperwork that seems to plague every cage. His office is located in the biggest structure on the village which all of them are cone-shaped. Curse this damn paperwork, the Tsuchikage said, cursing this paperwork with all his might. He was half tempted to vaporize everything around him, which wouldn't be too hard. Why it wouldn't be too hard is very simple. The Tsuchikage is the last known wielder of the dust release. Although technically it isn't a Kekkei Genkai, one must have affinity for earth, fire, and wind, which isn't very common for shinobi to have natural affinities for more than 2 elements. Onaki is a very proud, headstrong, and boastful individual. Due of his age, he is also somewhat frail, with constant complaints about hip and back pains. Although he's old, similar to the Hokage in fact, he refuses to step down from the cage position until he finds a worthy heir to his position. The Tsuchikage picked a paper and it was a simple report of a simple D-rank mission. He quickly scanned through it and stamped it, placing it on the other end of the table. This was his routine when not sleeping. He would spend his days reading and stamping reports. He was broken from his work by a knock of the door. "Come in," Onaki said. The door opened and a man entered. He was wearing the standard IWA attire with the exception that the red shirt went all the way up to his chin. He had black eyes with brown hair stylized with a small ponytail. "Good morning, Tsuchikage-sama," the man said, greeting his leader and kneeling in front of him. "Misato, need something?" Onaki asked. Misato was in fact the village's spy master. The spy master's job, like the name states, it's to keep tabs on the other villages and other information that might seem relevant to his village's safety and welfare. "Yes, Tsuchikage-sama," Misato replied, standing up. "We received a letter from the Sand addressed directly to you and came in their fastest carrier, and also we heard of something interesting in Konoha," Misato explained, handing the letter over to the Tsuchikage. The letter had already been scanned to make sure it wasn't an explosive tag or other trap. "Tsuchikage-dono, we are sending this message in our fastest carrier as the situation is very strenuous to us and we would like a reply as fast as possible. 5 days ago our village allied itself with the Sound Village and launched an invasion against Konoha. The invasion didn't go as planned and we, along with the sound, were defeated. It appears the Konoha had somehow found about the invasion prior to it and was able to prepare. We have severely underestimated their power and we placed faith on someone of questionable integrity, a mistake on our part. According to our reports, Konoha's Jinhiriki was responsible for defeating the fully released Shukaku but also killed our Kage along with 200 of our own. A more detailed report is attached to the letter. We took a crippling blow to our forces and as such we would propose an alliance with your village as it holds no love for Konoha. This would be a complete alliance meaning more commercial routes and agreements and of course military help if needed. We have also dispatched a letter to the Earth Daimyo explaining the situation as the Wind Daimyo has agreed with an alliance should you accept. Yours faithfully, Suna counsel that Tsuchikage read the letter a couple of times so he wouldn't miss anything. So they let themselves be guided by Orochimaru, fools, Onaki thought. Placing your trust on a Nukenin is hardly ever a good idea and Orochimaru didn't exactly have the best reputation. Judging from the letter they must fear a possible invasion if they are requesting an alliance with us of all people, Onaki mused in thought. IWA much like Kumo were independent and they didn't particularly like alliances. Interesting, Onaki thought out loud. Sir. Misato said. The Sand wants an alliance with us, Onaki said but Misato didn't seem particularly surprised. You don't seem surprised, Onaki stated. I've heard some very interesting news from our spies in Konoha but I was going to inform you after you had read the letter, Misato stated. Do you have the reports? Onaki asked and Misato nodded handing them the reports of their invasion based on the survivors. Onaki quickly read through the invasion reports and it was basic stuff on how Suna got their asses handed to them and they ran with their tails between their legs. He kept on reading until he found the part on Konoha's Jinhiriki someone named Uzumaki Naruto. Apparently the Jinhiriki was nothing more than a brat of 14 years old. And yet this genin managed to kill a fifth of the Suna's forces with a single jutsu. He had displayed high level of ninjutsu and fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu, it seems that Konoha still bets on that, Onaki thought as he continued on reading the letter until he found a picture of said Jinhiriki. His eyes widened and his blood ran cold when he saw what the Jinhiriki looked like. He still couldn't forget those cold blue eyes and that spiky golden hair. He felt as if he was staring at the Namikaze once again. It can't be, Onaki thought. How he despised the Namikaze. Minato was the reason Konoha won the Third Shinobi War by slaughtering 1,000 of their shinobi in just a couple of seconds. And now Onaki was staring at some kid who looked just like H except he had longer hair and whiskers marks on his face but the similarities were too much to ignore. Misato, Onaki said getting his attention, what news have you heard from Konoha? Onaki quickly asked to see if he had anything on this Naruto. Apparently Konoha has a Senju heir which is none other than the Jinhiriki Naruto, Misato explained, but the kicker is that this Naruto is the son of Namikaze Minato, the Yellow Flash, Misato stated confirming Onaki's biggest fears. So the bastard sealed the Kyuubi inside his own son, Onaki said. Namikaze had reproduced and unleashed another Yellow Flash upon this world. Onaki would have his revenge. He would avenge his son's death by the Yellow Flash by killing his son in return. But there's more, Misato said and Onaki focused on him. Senju Naruto, the son of Namikaze Naruto is apparently the grandson of Uchiha Madara which would mean that the Namikaze was Madara's son, Onaki finished by him in a disbelieving tone and Misato nodded. Onaki also despised Madara sometimes even more than the Yellow Flash. When he was younger and they had just signed a treaty with Konoha, Madara had the ghoul of stating that IWA was nothing more than Konoha's slaves. It seemed as IWA had a very grim past with those of Uchiha blood. After all, IWA wanted Madara dead and they got that, and then Namikaze appears as if to finish his father's job of killing IWA shinobi. To think the Namikaze would be Madara's son, Onaki said gritting his teeth. However, I do find it strange that no one ever knew of his Sharingan, Onaki mused out loud. The son of the most powerful Uchiha to ever live would without a doubt awaken Sharingan but they never knew of it. In fact, they didn't know of the Namikaze's parents until 14 years after his death. It seems Konoha has a Namikaze heir, but they stacked all their cards into one person. He's both the last Senju, as Tsunade's past reproducing age and the last Namikaze, Onaki thought as he rubbed his beard. Or Uchiha I should say, Onaki corrected. What are we going to do regarding Suna and the Namikaze bastard? Misato asked. He too along with all of IWA had no love towards Minato, and finding out he was the son of Uchiha Madara didn't exactly help. We can't do any direct actions against the Yellow Flash's brat right now as it would raise too much attention. Let it cool down a bit before Oniki explained. The world had just been informed of Inamikaze heir and trying to kill him right now would raise too much suspicion towards IWA, so it could wait. Regarding Suna, I'm tempted to accept their alliance, Oniki said. What are your thoughts? Oniki asked Misato. Unlike Konoha or Suna, IWA is a full dictatorship with Oniki holding all the power. But even then he would seek out advice on his most trusted shinobi. I think we should accept. We have nothing to lose and I've heard that Konoha doesn't intend to attack them, so this must be just some guarantee against Kumo since Kiri is still in war, Misato explained. I concur with your assessment, Oniki agreed and quickly wrote a reply to Suna's request. After Suna had chosen their new Kaze cage, they would have a formal meeting with both cages to discuss the full terms of their alliance and iron out any details. Send it to Suna, Oniki said, giving the letter to Misato, who sealed it. What about the Senju? Misato asked. He had nothing against the Senju clan itself, but knowing that he was the son of the Yellow Flash and Madara's grandson sealed his fate. Like I said, let things cool down for now, Oniki explained. In the meantime, put him in the bingo book. I want him captured alive so he can be executed in front of the whole village to show them what happens when they mess with IWA, Oniki said, grinning. That would be his last act as Tsuchikage, killing the Namikaze's brat. What rank and bounty shall we give? Misato asked. Based on the reports and knowing he's the bastard son, give him #Naruto and company #. It was the day after Tsunade and Naruto had talked with their family, and currently we find them in some empty field training. Since Tsunade had agreed to meet Orochimaru and with him injured, they had the golden opportunity to end him once and for all. This world would be a better place without that snake laying around. Hinata was training with Shizune and Tsunade. Since she asked for it, they might as well start it already. So you want to become a medic nin, right? Tsunade asked, and Hinata nodded. Why? Tsunade asked, as he never got the full story from her. Because I prefer to heal people than hurt them, Hinata replied, and Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Don't get me wrong, I know when it's necessary to hurt or kill someone, but I prefer to make people feel better, Hinata explained. She never liked killing, she was too kind for that, but she knew that sometimes it was for the best. Naru-chan really chose well, Tsunade said, smirking, making Hinata slightly blush. Alright brat, I'll train you. From now on you call me Tsunade-sensei when I'm training you, got that? Tsunade asked. Hi Tsunade-sensei, Hinata replied without a shred of doubt in her voice. For starters, tell me what you know, Tsunade said. I have very good chakra control and knowledge of the human anatomy and even better understanding of poisons and antidotes, but also medicinal herbs. I don't know any healing techniques, so I just use some healing cream I make, Hinata explained. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Poisons, antidotes and medicinal herbs? Tsunade asked, and Hinata nodded. That isn't covered in the academy, so I assume you studied that on the side? Tsunade asked, and Hinata nodded once again. It's a very good start. Now let's see how good your chakra control is, Tsunade said, and picked a small brown pouch from somewhere. Here, put your palms up, Tsunade said, and Hinata complied. Tsunade then emptied the pouch onto Hinata's hands. From the pouch came a bunch of multicolored sand. The sand was composed of 4 colors: blue, brown, red and green. Now I want you to separate the sand by color and align them in your palm using only chakra, Tsunade explained. If you can do this in less than 5 seconds, means that your chakra control is very good and on par with Shizune and more than enough a few medical techniques. If you make it, I'll show a few others that are only known by medics to further increase it, Tsunade explained, and Hinata got to it. Hinata did a few tries just so she could get a feel for the sand. The timer started and Hinata started channeling chakra to her hands. It had to be a very minuscule amount, otherwise the sand would simply fly off her hands. She decided to split the sand colors, starting on blue then going for brown, red, and green. After the sand was divided by color into equal globs, she slowly started aligning them in a straight line. Once she was done, she cleaned a bit of sweat from her forehead. She never had to concentrate so much in her life for such a simple thing. 6 seconds, that's very good, Tsunade said, impressed by Hinata. This kind of control was cage level for fighting, but for medical applications it was necessary so much more than that. Just out of curiosity, what are your affinities? Tsunade asked. I have both wind and water, but also a small lightning affinity. Due to my usage, the water is my strongest, Hinata explained. Even better. Water affinity is the best for medical use, Tsunade stated. I'll show you how to use the mystical palm technique that speeds up the body's natural healing process, Tsunade explained, and Hinata nodded, getting right into it. That day went by without much trouble. By the afternoon, Hinata could maintain the mystical palm technique indefinitely, or at least until she ran out of chakra. Tsunade had warned of the dangers should she send too much chakra with the technique. If Hinata used too much chakra in this technique, instead of healing the victim, it would render them into a comatose state. Now this time it was Shizun that decided to teach Hinata on poisons. Tsunade knew everything about poisons, but she was more turned to countering them instead of creating them like Shizun and Hinata liked to. What ways do you have to deliver poison? Shizun asked. The only way I know is to use senbon or other weapon coated with the poison I want, Hinata explained, and Shizun nodded. Then I'll show you this one, Shizun said, and broke away from Hinata, getting clear from her. Dakujiri, poison mist, Shizun said just before pumping her lungs with chakra and expelling a thick purple mist from her mouth. Just by looking at it, anyone knew that it would be better to get the hell out of Dodge. Just by inhaling a small bit of it will be fatal. To do this you must convert your chakra into a certain chemical that once expelled, it mixes with the air, converting it into the poison mist. So in fact you breathing a chemical and not the poison itself, making it safer for you to use, Shizun explained, and proceeded to teach Hinata how to transform her chakra into different chemicals to achieve different poisons. Boom! An explosion echoed through the whole field, and Hinata turned to the left to see smoke rising on the horizon. Looks like Naruto is having trouble, Hinata said, giggling to herself. Hashtag with Naruto, hashtag not too far away from where Hinata, Shizun, and Tsunade were, was Naruto also doing his training. He had already did his morning warm-up routine, so now we find him working on his Rasengan. He is currently trying to create a bigger Rasengan, like Jiraiya said. Jiraiya is currently missing, and by missing I mean he doing his research for his next novel. And by research I mean peeking on the local hot springs or some other place where one could find some unfortunate beauties with low amount of clothing on. Boom! An explosion echoed through the field as the Rasengan he had in his hands destabilized and exploded, dispelling the clones and destroying the ground. Damn it, this is not working, Naruto said, frustrated. He made a cross sign and replaced the shadow clones that were destroyed. He didn't understand what he was missing. He managed to learn the Rasengan rather quickly, but this was proving difficult. Naruto started once again a normal Rasengan and stopped when it stabilized. He began pumping more chakra into the small sphere. The sphere began glowing and was quickly approaching twice the normal chakra. Just a bit more, Naruto said, and a drop of sweat fell from his face. Boom, that's it, back to the beginning, Naruto said, shaking his head. What can I do? The outer layer isn't strong enough to hold so much chakra, Naruto was thinking as he tried to figure it out. Then he remembered his fight against Shukaku and when he used his Baijuodama. The layer can't hold so much power. If the chakra density is too big from such a small layer and I must increase the power, the only way is to increase its volume, Naruto thought, and concluded that to maintain the stability he had to reinforce the outer layer by making it bigger and larger. He began to do just that. Naruto started to gather chakra and stopped at the normal Rasengan. Now, instead of just pumping chakra, he began to add chakra and expand the outer layer simultaneously. The results were instantaneous. The ball kept on increasing while maintaining its stability. Naruto was pumping more and more chakra and the sphere was almost reaching 4 times the normal amount, and Naruto decided to stop there and see if he could hold it there. Looks like you made some progress, Jiraiya said as he entered the field. His cheeks were slightly colored, meaning he was drinking at some point. I finally got it, Ero Sennin, Naruto replied, and Jiraiya sighed at the nickname. His mother used to call him the exact same thing when she was still alive. How much chakra did you put there? Jiraiya asked to see if his big Rasengan met the standards. 4 times as much, Naruto replied, and Jiraiya nodded. 4 times the normal Rasengan was just fine. It should be just fine. Use a shadow clone as clash it with mine, Jiraiya said, and Naruto dispelled the remaining clones, forming only one. The clone made an Udama Rasengan and dashed towards the waiting Jiraiya. The glowing blue orbs connected with each other and the ground started shaking from the energy being released. Neither sphere wanted to be overrun, but slowly Naruto's Rasengan started to waver and the whole ground exploded. When the smoke cleared, Jiraiya's clone was still standing although he was smoking. Your big Rasengan is good. You just need to use it a couple of times to get a feel for it, Jiraiya explained, and Naruto nodded, going back to his training. Why don't you take a break? You've been at it for hours, aren't you tired? Jiraiya asked. It was almost nightfall, meaning Naruto has been training his Rasengan for a couple of hours now. Don't you know me? Naruto replied, grinning towards him, and Jiraiya just shook his head. It's getting dark. How about we go for some dinner? Jiraiya asked and knew Naruto wouldn't refuse. After all, one of the things Naruto liked most after Hinata and training was eating. They all regrouped and headed towards some local restaurant. #restaurant ##. They were all eating peacefully since they weren't in a hurry, and they decided to plan what to do against Orochimaru. Planning against a cage-level shinobi would hardly work, especially against someone as slippery as Orochimaru. What are we going to against Orochimaru? Naruto asked, and Jiraiya chuckled. Naruto called him exactly the same thing Jiraiya once did. After all, they were once teammates and almost brothers. Tsunade hummed and thought with her hand in her chin. I can fake healing him and try to kill him with a medical technique, Tsunade explained. Are you sure it will work? Jiraiya asked. If it failed, she might find herself in a compromising position. This technique looks like the mystical palm, so it should fool him, as he has no advanced knowledge on medical techniques. It works by infusing a poisonous chakra of sorts into his system. Once inserted, the poison instantaneously spreads through the whole network, destroying almost instantly. Tsunade explained. He should drop dead in a matter of seconds, Tsunade said, grinning. What if he sees through? Naruto asked. He will know that you sided with Konoha and most likely try to kill you, Naruto explained. The best we can do if she is discovered is to try and lead them into an open field to battle, Jiraiya explained. Battling a cage-level shinobi in the middle of a town would most likely destroy everything in it. Especially someone of Orochimaru's caliber. There are various types of cage, and Orochimaru stands in the higher division. Okay. Imagine we can lure him out onto an empty field, Naruto said. Then what? Naruto asked. We smoke his ass, Tsunade simply said, and everyone's sweat dropped at the simplicity of their plan. Good enough for me, Naruto said, and everyone went back to eating. #6 days later. The sun was shining high in the air, engulfing the whole town in a golden aura. It was around noon, and Orochimaru was calmly walking towards his destination with his most trusted henchman/sidekick by his side, also known as Yakushi Kabuto. They suddenly stopped as they were in the place they agreed to meet Tsunade. Not even a few minutes had passed and Orochimaru could see Tsunade approaching in the horizon. He smirked at the thought that his offer had been accepted. He never doubted that Tsunade would refuse it. He knew she would give anything to CTH again, even if it was only one more time just to say goodbye. Little did Orochimaru know that Tsunade had already got her wish to see her family once again. Orochimaru was even more satisfied that Tsunade came alone. It further confirmed his suspicion that she accepted by dumping her apprentice. Do you have your answer, Tsunade? Orochimaru asked, smirking, and she simply nodded, faking a sad mood. If I heal your arm, can you really bring them back? Tsunade asked, and Orochimaru just nodded. Where's your necklace? Orochimaru asked, surprised she didn't have it on. Shit, Tsunade thought, but remained calm and with a saddened aura. Why should it matter? Tsunade asked, and Orochimaru shrugged it off. Give me your arm, Tsunade said as she slowly walked towards Orochimaru. She flexed her hands forward and they started glowing green. To anyone else it seemed like a normal healing technique. Just before she reached Orochimaru, a kunai was through at her, making her jump back. What's the meaning of this, Kabuto? Orochimaru asked, angry. That is a assignation technique very similar to the mystical palm. She was trying to kill you, Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto explained, and Orochimaru growled. How cunning of you, Tsunade. Trying to kill me when I had my guard down. Too bad for you, I have powerful allies by my side. Orochimaru replied, chuckling. It appears you have sided with Konoha, and I know now the fate of your necklace. You most likely gave it to Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said. Like you will leave this town alive, Tsunade said, smirking, and without thought dashed towards both of them. She jumped in the air and brought her heel down, smashing it into the ground and vaporizing it. Time for plan B, Tsunade thought, and began to chase them off town and driving them into some empty field. This is it, Orochimaru, Tsunade said, smirking. What can you do? Orochimaru replied, chuckling. You are alone against both of us, and Kabuto isn't to be underestimated. He's at the level of Hatake Kakashi, Orochimaru said, smirking. I'm not alone, Tsunade said, taking a kunai from her clothes and sending it to the ground. The moment the kunai connected, there was a bright flash of yellow, and Jiraiya, Hinata, Shizuan, and Naruto were seen standing there side by side with Tsunade. How about these odds? Tsunade smugly pointed out. Tisk, Orochimaru replied. How nice of you to join us, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said, licking his lips, making Naruto shiver. How's the arm? Naruto innocently asked and Orochimaru scowled. Long time no see Orochimaru, Jiraiya said and Naruto chuckled. Jiraiya, Orochimaru said watching his once teammate. Let's get this over with, Tsunade said before elbowing Jiraiya to the side making him fall to the ground and started dashing towards Orochimaru and Kabuto. Tsunade was running when Orochimaru quickly bit his thumb drawing blood and threw it at Tsunade. The blood connected with her face and she hesitated momentarily. Kabuto took the opportunity and using his chakra scalpels he sliced through the important muscles in her legs. He was about to cut her throat when he was almost blinded by a yellow flash. Naruto instantly appeared above Tsunade as he had marked her and everyone else. Naruto used Tsunade's shoulder for support and kicked Kabuto in the shoulder sending high tumbling to the ground. Naruto kicked Kabuto and continued his momentum. He turned midair and locked eyes with Orochimaru. His normal Sharingan quickly shifted to his main Jakua. Orochimaru sensed his chakra spike and was about to jump away when Naruto said MADARA'S. Orochimaru's body erupted in black flames and he fell to the ground shaking trying to extinguish the powerful flames. Naruto quickly flashed back to Jiraiya with Tsunade on her toes. She was slightly shaken up from seeing the blood but it appears her talk with her loved ones helped to the point she didn't become catatonic. She dropped to the ground and Shizune along with Hinata started healing her the best they could. Do you think it was enough? Naruto asked. Hardly, I don't think he will go down with just that, Jiraiya asked and Naruto extended his senses. He could easily see something being burned with his Amaterasu flames and Kabuto was getting up. Jump, Naruto yelled and everyone split away from their current position as Orochimaru's head bursted from the ground with a sword in his mouth. Naruto looked at the blade and saw it dripping some purple substance meaning the blade was coated W poison. They jumped away and regrouped just to see the rest of Orochimaru's body coming out of the ground unharmed. Naruto focused his eyes towards his flames and they were still there meaning it wasn't some clone. How did you avoid the Amaterasu flames? Naruto asked. He knew for a fact that these flames couldn't be put out in a simple Kawarami wouldn't work as the flames wouldn't leave his body. He shed his skin, Jiraiya explained as Orochimaru had some sticky residue in his skin. I remember, Naruto said. He did the same thing back in the Forest of Death. He vomited himself out of his body. That's the best way to describe it, Naruto said slightly disgusted by the jutsu. Yeah, he was always a disgusting bastard, Jiraiya stated. Why don't you join us, Naruto-kun? Kabuto asked out of nowhere. Why would I do that? Naruto rhetorically asked. There is nothing you can offer me that would make me leave my home, Naruto said. You can offer you power, Kabuto replied. I have plenty of power, Naruto said grinning. How about we bring back your mother and father? Orochimaru replied smirking. You are a fool Orochimaru, Naruto replied and he raised an eyebrow. I know how to the Edo Tensei so I could bring my mother back if I wanted to, however my father is sealed inside the god of death's stomach and we both know the Edo Tensei can't bring his soul back, Naruto explained and they stared at him. There's nothing you can offer me, Naruto said before picking his fan from his back. Katon, Zokoku, Cranium Carver, Naruto said and sent a small fireball towards Orochimaru. However this ball was going way too fast. Orochimaru and Kabuto jumped away but the ball collided with the ground and exploded in flames scorching both of them. Just as Orochimaru was about to touch the ground Tsunade appeared behind him. Hi there, Tsunade said with a very sweet smile before cocking her fist and slamming it against Orochimaru's chest. He was sent flying into the ground and when he crashed it formed a crater due to the force of the impact. A single punch, one punch and she broke all of my ribs and melted my insides, Orochimaru thought just before he shed his skin once again coming out unharmed. That is going to be a problem, Hinata said as she watched with her Byakugan and noticed that Orochimaru was once again unharmed. Naruto, Hinata, can you both handle 4 eyes? Jiraiya asked and Naruto just stared at him with his eyebrows raised. Of course you can, Jiraiya said deadpanned. Naruto and Hinata both ran towards Kabuto while Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune would deal with Orochimaru. Orochimaru seethed his teeth as his odds weren't looking too bright. Apparently Tsunade wasn't afraid of blood anymore making him being against 2 cage-level shinobi, Shizune he could ignore. He looked towards his sidekick and he knew he wouldn't stand a chance. Naruto had enough raw power to easily match cage-level shinobi. You know you don't stand a chance, right? Naruto asked. Oh my, such arrogance, Kabuto replied smirking while pushing his glasses up. It isn't arrogance when you can back it up, Naruto simply replied shrugging his shoulders. Besides you are up against 2, Naruto explained. That may be, but I won't go down easily, Kabuto said and began running towards both of them. Naruto and Hinata teamed up and ran towards him as well, meeting him at halfway. They immediately engaged in taijutsu. Usually when someone is fighting more than one person at the time, sometimes it might be easier to hit one of them as they confuse and stumble on each other. However, this didn't apply to Naruto or Hinata. They trained together for years and were in love with each other. They were the meaning of teamwork. Their stances flowed together like water in a river, each one covering the other's blind spots. When one of them attacked, the other would slightly fall back into a defensive stance. Kabuto couldn't do anything unless become a punching for this duo. Both of them were amazingly skilled in taijutsu, with Hinata's being deadlier. Hinata sidestepped a sloppy punch from Kabuto. She grabbed him by his wrist and tried to break it with a twist. However, Kabuto twisted his body along with it, flipping in the air, preventing his wrist from being broken. Naruto took the opportunity of Kabuto's being in the air, the kicked in the chest, sending him tumbling to the ground. He easily got up and started healing himself. After he was ready, he channeled chakra to his hands and they started to glow and buzz. Lia saw. Both Naruto and Hinata looked at the chakra in his hands with their jujutsu, and they both could see that it was definitely some kind of knife made purely with chakra. Be careful, Naru-kun, Hinata said, and Naruto turned to her. Those are chakra scalpels used to cut muscle and other tissues of the human body during operations, Hinata explained. So, don't let the hands touch you, right? Naruto asked and she nodded. Yes, let me try something, Hinata said and stepped in front of Naruto. Hinata pumped her lungs full of chakra and said, Takujiri, poison mist. A purple fog came from her mouth and headed towards Kabuto, who was engulfed in a cloud of venom. He hid underground, Hinata said as she had seen Kabuto with her Byakugan. Kabuto suddenly emerged from the ground just beside her and tried an uppercut. Hinata had already expected such a thing and tilted her body back, coiling herself, and delivered a fierce kick to his face. His glasses shattered and he was sent flying into the ground. Nice one, Naruto commented. He always liked seeing his princess in action. Thank you, she replied. Kabuto got up and spat a bit of blood onto the ground, dropping his glasses as well since they were useless by now. Snap. A sickening crunch was heard through the field as Kabuto realigned his broken nose to its proper place. Can you even see well enough to fight us? Naruto asked, since Kabuto was now without glasses. If I channel chakra to my eyes I can see as good as a normal person, Kabuto explained, bragging. Don't count me out just yet, Kabuto replied, grinning. Suddenly a huge shadow appeared next to Naruto and Hinata, blocking the sun from them. It was massive brown snake. The snake immediately slammed itself into the ground trying to squash them, but they jumped aside, evading it. Looks like Orochimaru sent back up, Naruto replied, smirking. Katon, Ryukan no Jutsu, Dragon Fire Technique, Naruto said and sent a stream of fire towards the snake. She was engulfed by the fire and disappeared from view. Once the fire was gone, the snake was still in the same place and it wasn't even scorched, as the skin was too rough for such weak attack. Kabuto jumped on top of its head and the snake made her way towards Naruto and Hinata, trying to eat them or squash them. It didn't make a difference in the end. The snake opened its mouth and expelled some semi-transparent liquid onto them. TH jumped to the side and liquid hit the ground. Poison, Hinata said and Naruto nodded. Futon, Shinkyuha, air blade, Hinata said and exhaled multiple wind blades that were sent towards the snake. The air blades didn't even waver as they hit the snake and sliced it up into multiple pieces, making blood spurt all over the field. The snake disappeared in smoke as well, all the blood. Problem, Kabuto? Naruto asked, chuckling as Kabuto scowled. Kabuto Orochimaru yelled from his side of the battle and Kabuto quickly shunshined next to his master. Kukiyos no Jutsu, summoning technique, Orochimaru said and traced a line of blood in the tattoo of his only working arm. Both Orochimaru and Kabuto were engulfed in smoke. Once the smoke cleared, a rather large purple snake appeared. The snake was Manda, the boss summon of the Snake Clan and the strongest of them all. Orochimaru, I want 100 sacrifices for summoning me, Manda said in his deep voice. Of course, Orochimaru replied. I can't summon Katsuyu, I've wasted too much chakra driving them here, Tsunade replied and Jiraiya nodded. Kukiyos no Jutsu, summoning technique, Jiraiya said and he too was enveloped in smoke. Seconds later he was standing on top of a very large orange toad. The toad was Gamabunta, the boss of the Toad Clan. Manda and Orochimaru, they are faces I haven't seen in a while, Gamabunta said as he released a cloud of smoke from his pipe. "Let's end this," Jiraiya said, and Gamabunta dashed towards the snake with his sword drawn. Gamabunta quickly reached them and tried to stab Manda. Manda simply opened his jaw and caught the blade in it. Gamabunta squirmed to try and get his blade free, but it was in vain. Manda flexed his tail and tried to pierce Gamabunta, making him flip backwards and leaving the sword in Manda's mouth. Manda instantly began sliding towards Gamabunta and threw the sword back at him. Gamabunta jumped to the side to evade the blade and the sword crashed into the ground, burying itself. "You stay Ba-chan, I'm going to help Arrow Sennin," Naruto said, and jumped away from Tsunade, Shizoan, and Hinata. "What is he going to do?" Tsunade asked. "I don't know. He's very unpredictable," Hinata replied, and they shifted their attention towards the Titans' battle. "Kuki Yos no Jutsu, summoning technique," Naruto yelled and slammed his hand on the ground. Manda and Gamabunta stopped their fighting to see just what exactly was coming to the battlefield. A big cloud of smoke rose from the ground, blocking everyone's view of Naruto. Suddenly the air was pushed back like a shockwave due to the air displacement, and everyone secured themselves not to get blown away. Ruoaruru, a massive roar erupted from the smoke that made the ground shook and the cloud of smoke to disperse. The figure was very big, almost twice the size of Gamabunta himself. It had orange fur, very sharp teeth and claws, blood-red eyes with a black SL and 9 tails swinging freely in his back. After 14 years the Kyuubi was once again unleashed upon the mortal realm. Kyuubi, Jiraiya stuttered and paled at the sight of the monstrous figure in front of him. Everyone else was in shock as they never expected a Jinhuriki to summon their Baijuyo to a fight. "Like the fresh air, Kurama?" Naruto asked as he stood on top of Kurama's head. "I do, it gives me a chance to stretch my legs," Kurama replied, showing his foxy grin. Everyone could feel the strong and oppressive chakra coming out from the Kyuubi's body. "I like challenges and all, but this is ridiculous," Manda said, not really looking forward to fighting a Baijuyo and the Kyuubi of them all. "Isn't the Kyuubi supposed to be, in the seal?" Jiraiya tried to come up with the right words not to piss the Kyuubi off. "It seems logic to me that I can summon the Kyuubi," Naruto said. "When you store items in a storage scroll, the items are moved to a pocket dimension created by the scroll. The Haka no Fuinshiki, 8 trigrams seal, does the same thing and creates a more advanced pocket dimension and a few other things. The summoning technique is a space-time technique, and with the Kyuubi being the boss summon of the Fox clan, what did you expect to come out?" Naruto rhetorically asked as Jiraiya was trying to piece everything together. He never looked at storage seals that way, but it made sense. The items in the storage seal had to go somewhere. "And since the chakra doesn't flow through my coils when I summon him, I don't die," Naruto explained, and Jiraiya dumbly nodded. "Stand back," Naruto said, and Gamabunta jumped to the side. The Kyuubi was destructive without even trying, and he wouldn't want to be caught in the crossfire. "Kurama, let's go," Naruto said, and both of them inhaled air into the lungs. "Katon, fire stream," Kyuubi said, and expelled a stream of white-hot fire towards Manda. "Futon, Ronkyudan, vacuum wind bullet," Naruto said, and expelled wind bullets that mixed with Kurama's fire, turning them into hot bullets that would pierce and melt everything in their path. Manda engulfed by the fire and the ground destroyed by Naruto's air bullets combined with Kurama's fire. The fire died down and the only remains was a piece of skin, meaning Manda had slipped away from their attack. Naruto focused his senses and felt chakra signatures beneath the ground. "They hid underground," Naruto said, and Kurama jumped back in time to avoid Manda's tail bursting through the ground trying to stab Kurama. Manda emerged completely and Kurama roared, making the ground burst into rubble and Manda being thrown back. Manda got up from the ground and coiled, getting ready to pounce. Kurama flexed his tails and tried to flatten the snake, but Manda managed to slide his way through all of Kurama's attempts. Each time Kurama smashed his tail, the entire field would shake from the power and pressure behind the swing. Manda rose up to bite him, but Kurama managed to swing a tail that hit Manda. However, instead of Manda being thrown back, the snake wrapped itself around Kurama's tail and tried to bite him again. "Have a good lunch," Naruto said as 5 clones jumped into Manda's mouth. The clones instantly began to glow and exploded inside the snake's mouth. Manda fell to the ground with his jaw smoking. "Damn brat," Manda hissed, couching or something similar. "Goodbye Snakey, MADARA'S," Naruto said and looked towards Manda's head deep in concentration. Black flames erupted around Manda's head and the snake dropped to the ground, rolling and hissing in pain. Orochimaru and Kabuto jumped away from head and landed on the ground. Manda disappeared in smoke, meaning it went back his realm to heal. The snake disappeared, but the flames remained there, meaning Manda managed to get rid of them, which meant the snake was still alive. Kurama end it, Naruto said and jumped out of his head. Okay, Kurama replied and brought all of his tails above his head. Red and blue chakra was seen floating in the air. Suddenly all the chakra bubbles condensed and formed a small perfect sphere. Kurama ate the chakra ball and Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. Baijuutama, Kurama said, and a pure energy ball exploded from Kurama's mouth like a cannon heading at high speed towards Orochimaru and Kabuto. Kabuto panicked and blurred through hand seals. He took a bit of Orochimaru's blood and slammed his hands in the ground. Kukiyos, Sanju Urashoman, Kabuto said, and 3 very large defensive structures rose from the ground and stood in the path of the tailed beast bomb. The energy sphere connected with the Rashomans and exploded in a tunnel of energy. The entire field shook and everyone just stood in awe at the power of the strongest Baijuya. Doton, Doryuha Haki, Earth Wall, Jiraiya said, and trapped himself along with everyone else inside an earth dome to survive the brutal and scorching winds unleashed by the attack. The energy eventually died down and the dust started to settle down, clearing the view of everyone. It was very clear the difference between a 4-tail Baijuutama and a true bomb used by the Baijuya. What was once a pretty plain field with grass and flowers was now nothing more than a desert without a sign of life for miles. Everything was eradicated, leaving nothing to be seen but emptiness. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the sight of the attack and he could see Orochimaru squirming in the ground trying to get up, and Kabuto was nowhere to be seen, most likely vaporized. Unbelievable, Jiraiya said in disbelief as he dropped the stone wall and gaped at the sight. It was the second time he had seen a tailed beast bomb and the results still shocked. Looks like it's the end, Tsunade said, looking at Naruto walking towards Orochimaru, who was in the ground in pain. His whole body was a mess with broken legs and the clothes scorched as well, half of his face. This is the end, Orochimaru, Naruto said as he took the sword from his seal and channeled lightning chakra through it. Naruto was ready to cut the head of the snake and end it for good. And no, you can't kill me, I'm Orochimaru the Immortal, Orochimaru yelled in frustration as he looked towards Naruto and tried to crawl away. Stay away, Orochimaru said in fear. I never pegged you for a coward, Orochimaru, begging for your life. Pathetic, Naruto said and brought his sword up to cleave his head for good. Naruto was about to cleave Orochimaru's head when Kabuto bursted from the ground with his fist closed. Naruto saw right through him and jumped back to avoid it. Naruto was jumping back and placed his hands on the ground. Golden chains erupted near Kabuto and pierced him through both of his shoulders and ankles, pinning him to the ground. Damn that Kabuto, always interrupting, Naruto said. Kabuto was in the ground barely conscious with blood dripping from his mouth. It looked like the tailed beast bomb did a fair amount of damage to him. Amaterasu, Naruto said, and Kabuto's body erupted in flames. Kabuto tried to shake them off but the chains held him in place and the only thing he could was scream until he was dead and nothing more than ashes on the ground. 5 seconds later, Yakushi Kabuto was no more. Damn brat, you will pay for what you've done, Orochimaru hissed and disappeared in smoke as the distraction had been enough for Orochimaru to shunshin away to safety. Damn it, he got away, I had him but his assistant had to interfere, Naruto yelled in frustration. Orochimaru invaded the leaf, tried to kill the sand aim and summoned his family to do his beating, and once again he got away. Don't worry, Naruto, at least we got his right-hand man, Jiraiya said, and Naruto sighed. There wasn't much more they could do. I guess, but next time he won't get away, Naruto said. I'm going, Kit, Kurama said, and Naruto nodded. Thanks, Kurama, Naruto replied. This wasn't half bad. Let's go to hotel to rest and pack for the journey home, Tsunade said, and everyone nodded. After the battle everyone was mostly fine except a few scratches and broken ribs, but nothing life-threatening.